Chapter 2291. Looking at Xiaohua, Qian Yuan says with an apologetic smile, "It was my fault before. I didn't ask clearly before creating a rift with junior brother Xiao. Oh, Captain Chui. Just now, I apologized to Captain Chui and Vice Captain Zhen. Now, I'm going to apologize to junior brother Xiao again. No need. Captain Chui is right. You and I are both disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Now that we're working hand in hand to resist the enemy, all the conflicts between us are nothing," Xiaohua says with a smile. "Yes, junior brother Xiao is right," Qian Yuan says with a happy face. "We should work hand in hand to resist the enemy. I've already asked the team leader of the Heavenly Thunder Palace and just told Captain Chui that I want to join your team. I wonder, what does junior brother Xiao think?" Xiaohua stares blankly and looks at Cui Hongshan, asking curiously, "If Qian Yuan and Qian join our team, who will be the captain?" There's no need to make any changes. Qian Yuan doesn't wait for Cui Hongshan to speak and immediately says with a wave of his hand, "Captain Chui and Vice Captain Zhen will naturally be the captains of the first team. We'll just be ordinary team members." Senior brothers, your cultivation is higher than mine and you have experience in leading teams. I originally wanted to give in, but since you insist, I can't do anything." Cui Hongshan's eyes flash with a trace of a smile. This smile carries a trace of pride. Although Cui Hongshan knows that two disciples of the Heavenly Thunder Palace took the initiative to be his subordinates, he can't help but feel proud. Although that trace of pride is very little, Xiaohua can see it clearly. Immediately, Xiaohua can't help but compare Ziyi with Cui Hongshan. Alas, forget it. We really can't compare. Xiaohua thinks and waves his hand, saying, "Captain Chui can make the decision. What does it have to do with me? In my eyes, there's only the Heavenly Thunder Palace and the Heavenly Thunder Palace. The others have nothing to do with me." Junior brother Xiao. Qian Yuan's face is very awkward. He smiles apologetically. "I can't do anything, Alas, senior brother Qian, there's no need to explain." Xiaohua doesn't turn his head and walks towards the quiet room. Imperial Thunder Sect has so many disciples. I have some means, but how many can I take care of? Senior brother Qian came to my first squad just to make things difficult for me. Xiaohua, the two senior brothers have their difficulties. Cui Hongshan hurriedly tried to explain. I've already said that fellow Daoist Chui is the captain of the first team. Don't ask me about these things. When Xiaohua saw that Cui Hongshan was using him to curry favor with the Heavenly Thunder Palace, he was immediately displeased. This Xiao is just doing his best and doing his job. After saying that, he left without saying another word. Sigh, this guy has always been like this. Cui Hongshan's face was also filled with helplessness. My master was also infuriated by him in Myriad Thunder Valley. I know that all experts have weird tempers. The embarrassment on Qian Yuan's face didn't disappear. He smiled apologetically and said, "What junior brother Xiao said is very reasonable. He, after all, is only a foundation establishment disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. He can't influence the battle of swordsmanship. It's already good that he tried his best to protect a few disciples. We forget it, let's not talk about it. I'm sorry for my rudeness. Farewell." Qian Yuan knew that he couldn't continue. Although Cui Hongshan's tone had already agreed, he couldn't give a definite answer. Obviously, he wanted to know what Xiaohua was thinking. But Xiaohua had flatly refused. Even if Cui Hongshan really agreed to let him join the first team, Xiaohua didn't put him in his eyes. He was also estranged from the Heavenly Thunder Palace disciples. If he encountered a sword cultivator, he would still be the unlucky one. It was better to think of another way. This little brother respectfully sees you two senior brothers off. Cui Hongshan's face was still filled with a bitter smile as he accompanied the two of them out of the pavilion. "Good boy, Martial Uncle Xiao is really amazing," Zhan Hua, who was on duty at the side, said with envy in his eyes. "Those are two Middle Foundation establishment stage martial uncles of the Heavenly Thunder Palace. They can be considered to have some fame in the Imperial Thunder Sect. They actually have to give face to the disciples of my Heavenly Thunder Palace. After Cui Hongshan saw the two of them off, he returned. There was no change in his expression. He didn't dare to answer Yun Qianyuan for a long time because he saw Xiao Hua's attitude. If Xiao Hua wasn't willing, he couldn't do anything. Moreover, his heart was even more at ease. Xiao Hua still had Heavenly Thunder Palace and Myriad Thunder Valley in his heart. Not to mention Cui Hongshan returning to the quiet room to cultivate, Xiao Hua was sitting upright in the quiet room. He first looked at the little duck in the space. The bloodstain on its neck had already coagulated and didn't worsen. It was sleeping soundly, similar to Goldie's original appearance. Good. Xiao Hua nodded inwardly. He took out the magic slip he had exchanged with the female cultivator. Full of expectation, he invaded it with his Buddhist consciousness. Then, after only a moment, he opened his eyes in extreme disappointment and said with a bitter smile, "Damn it, this young master thought it was something good." Unexpectedly, someone fought with this young master over it. It turned out to be nothing more than a record of the demon world, and a record of the space crack. That crack also belongs to the demon world. It has nothing to do with the Dawn Rain continent. This young master wasted a rejuvenation pill for nothing. A rejuvenation pill, that's a rejuvenation pill worth hundreds of thousands of top-grade spirit stones, This won't do. After the war, I must go to that female cultivator's sect to take a look. If I don't get a few more demon tools, I'll really suffer a loss. If it's a normal day, this young master will also take it as a pastime. There's no harm in looking at it. But now, how can I have the leisure to look at this? Not to mention that old ghost Jingsu, even that guy Li Qingxiu is thinking about this young master. Xiao Hua still has to hurry up and cultivate Right, the most important thing now is to help second senior brother refine the Dragon Silver Gilt. He repeatedly warned me that this is a demon tool that concerns his life. I have to be careful. But this young master has been comprehending the blood drop paradise of the demon world for so long. It seems to be unable to cultivate in the Dawn Rain continent. Then those so-called demon cultivators, what do they cultivate? Do they cultivate the demon infant? There doesn't seem to be any records of the demon infant in this blood drop paradise. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua frowned again. In order to let Xiao Hua refine the Dragon Silver Gilt, Zhang Qingxiao also gave Xiao Hua the blood drop paradise of the demon world's demon monarch, hoping that he could comprehend something from it. However, after Xiao Hua's comprehension, he suddenly discovered that this blood drop paradise relied on the demon qi of the demon world to cultivate a so-called demon flame. The cultivation realm was also related to the realm of the demon flame. It was completely different from the cultivation of the Dawn Rain continent. There was no concept of gold core or nascent soul. Not only was he unable to cultivate, he also didn't know what it meant. Zhang Qingxiao naturally also gave Xiao Hua the refining technique of the demon world, but that refining technique was also different from the method of the Dawn Rain continent. Not only did it require demon flame and demon fire, it also required demon blood. Under the effect of these things from the demon world, the broken parts of the Dragon Silver Gilt could be connected together and then completely fused with the unique striking technique of the demon world. Xiao Hua's blood could be used, but he didn't have demon fire or demon flame. Previously, although the lightning in the Myriad Thunder Valley connected the broken parts of the Dragon Silver Gilt together, it didn't really fuse. It still couldn't show the true power of the Dragon Silver Gilt. Demon fire. Xiao Hua's eyes suddenly lit up again. Although I don't have demon fire, I have spiritual fire. This spiritual fire is the shell of spiritual fire of the demon world, and it was ignited by the origin of fire. It's definitely more powerful than demon fire, right? But now we're not in the Myriad Thunder Valley. Where did the lightning strike come from? How can the broken parts be perfectly fused together? And let's go take a look. Xiao Hua thought of the refining place provided by the Sky Patrol City to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Maybe there are some things that can be used? Moreover, it doesn't matter where I cultivate and how much noise I make. It won't attract attention. After thinking, Xiao Hua walked out of the quiet room again. Martial Uncle Xiao, you're going out again? Zhenhu was surprised to see Xiao Hua go in and out again. I'll be in the station. If you need anything, you can send me a message." Xiaohua nodded and walked out quickly, leaving behind Zhenhua's puzzled gaze. When Xiaohua arrived at the place where the weapon was being refined, it was exactly the same as before. When Xiaohua stepped into the cave, he saw that the deep and serene cave led straight into the depths of the mountain rocks. From his mouth and nose, the faint smell of saltpeter and earth fire drifted over. And Xiaohua spread out his spiritual sense. There was a restriction in the cave, so it couldn't be too far away. In his spiritual sense, there was no disciple of the Sky Patrol City. Xiaohua unconsciously frowned. This was different from what the Imperial Thunder Sect disciple said. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua walked inside and released his spiritual sense to find the Sky Patrol City disciple on duty. "Where did this cultivator come from? How dare you trespass into the area of my Sky Patrol City?" Xiaohua walked for more than 10 feet, and a slightly majestic voice came from behind him. "Damn it! How did I trespass? Isn't it just that there's no one on duty?" Xiaohua was slightly angry. He turned his head and saw an early-stage Foundation establishment city guard standing in front of the cave. His shadow was extremely long under the sunlight. "I am Xiaohua of the Imperial Thunder Sect. I'm here to repair my magic tool." Xiaohua suppressed his anger and said, "I saw that there was no one guarding the cave entrance, so I went inside to look for you. This is the area of my Sky Patrol City, not your Imperial Thunder Sect station. How can you just barge in?" The city guard was very disdainful and said coldly. Xiaohua was angry and said coldly, "When I came here, there was no one. Now I'm standing here. Why do you want to report it? Go ahead." After saying that, Xiaohua turned around and walked inside again. The city guard of the Sky Patrol City was dumbfounded. This guy naturally left his post. After returning, he actually saw someone breaking into the cave. Of course, he was surprised. This was him leaving his post without permission. Previously, there were many Imperial Thunder Sect disciples who came to investigate, but they were all cautious and most of them had a smile on their faces. He naturally regarded Xiaohua as an early-stage Foundation establishment disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect and casually scolded him. But when he saw Xiaohua turn around and go in again, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Not for anything else, anyone who thought about it a little understood that if he was standing guard in the cave, how could Xiaohua walk into the cave? Now that Xiaohua could walk into the cave, it must be that he was not on duty at the cave entrance. Unless, the city guard instantly had an idea. Chapter 2292. Of course, this dark thought only flashed through his mind. After all, Xiaohua was an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, and he did not have the confidence to win. Moreover, Xiaohua had already gone deep into the cave, and he really could not explain anything. "Oh, fellow Taoist." The city guard immediately changed his tone and said anxiously, "It's all my fault. Please take your time. Take your time." With that, the city guard's figure fluttered and chased after Xiaohua. "What did you do wrong? It's all I's fault." Xiaohua ignored him and continued walking. "Senior brother, please don't leave. If you leave, I won't be able to keep my life." The city guard was almost crying. His tone was pleading. "Oh." When Xiaohua heard that it was related to his life, he stopped and turned his head and said coldly, "Now you know you're wrong?" The city guard was a little surprised. After all, Xiaohua was the same as him, an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, and Xiaohua's face was very young, only about 20 years old. He was not even comparable to his martial nephew. However, Xiaohua's tone was more dignified than his master's. For a moment, the city guard almost treated Xiaohua as a senior in the Golden Core realm. "Yes, it's indeed my fault." The city guard shook his head slightly and came back to his senses. He said more respectfully, "I shouldn't have been so disrespectful to you. You're wrong." Xiaohua waved his hand and shook his head. "It's not that you're disrespectful to I don't like it. It's your opinion of my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples." The city guard was a little puzzled, and he really could not understand. My Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples came to Sky Patrol City not to take advantage of your city, nor to tour the mountains and rivers. We're here to fight with sword cultivators. Your Sky Patrol City provides places for alchemy and weapon refinement. That's what you should do. Xiao Hua said unceremoniously, these things shouldn't require any spirit stones. Not only did your Sky Patrol City ask for spirit stones, but you also have the face to treat my Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. What do you mean this is the Sky Patrol City's territory, and we can't trespass? Can we enter at will with spirit stones? Is trespassing without spirit stones trespassing? Fellow Taoist. The city guard hurriedly waved his hand and said, this matter is too serious. This lowly one is only a city guard, but because my cultivation is higher, I was sent here to guard the pill refining cave. This lowly one doesn't understand a single word you're saying. However, since I have offended you just now, the fee for entering the pill refinement cave can be reduced. But if he doesn't accept a single spirit stone, then I'll have to fork it out myself. Please be magnanimous. Well, that's more like it. Xiao Hua was very satisfied in his heart. After asking about the amount, he took out the spirit stones and handed them over. He then asked, after I finish repairing the artifact, I still want to find a place to practice alchemy. Do I still need to pay spirit stones? Oh, there's no need. The city guard smiled apologetically and said, I'll let you know, fellow Taoist. The pill refinement location is the same as the weapon refinement location. Fellow Taoist, you only need to open a quiet room, and you will even have the materials to refine yellow talismans. Of course, the materials used by fellow Taoist also need to be kept in spirit stones. The price of the materials are all marked in the quiet room. Yes, Xiao Hua nodded. I may stay in the quiet room for a bit longer. Are the spirit stones just now enough? How long does fellow Taoist need? The city guard obviously didn't expect Xiao Hua to stay for a long time and said, actually, the spirit qi in this quiet room isn't as abundant as the spirit qi outside. Moreover, the fire inside is vigorous, and the spirit qi of heaven and earth with fire attribute is somewhat complicated. It's not suitable for cultivation. At least 3 months, at most half a year. Xiao Hua thought for a moment. This will depend on whether I have a mission or not. Right, the communication talisman can be sent here, right? Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Although there is a restriction here, it doesn't prohibit communication talismans. The city guard hurriedly said, just now, I only asked for a month's worth of spirit stones. If fellow Taoist wants to stay for a long time, you will have to spend more spirit stones. All right. Xiao Hua silently calculated, took out some spirit stones and handed them over, saying, if I comes out early, these spirit stones will still have to be returned to I. Of course. Fellow Taoist, please rest assured. The city guard received the spirit stones and handed Xiao Hua's scarlet token with a number 13 on it. He smiled and said, in this alchemy cave, the fire in the first 50 quiet rooms is very hot. It's suitable for alchemy and refining. There are only 3 people assigned to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Fellow Taoist, you are the first Taoist from the Imperial Thunder Sect to come to the alchemy cave to repair artifacts. Oh, is that so? Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. He thought that this was an alchemy cave specially left for the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples by the Imperial Thunder City. Only now did he know that it was actually a function of each sect. Then which sect has the most disciples? Xiao Hua asked curiously. There are not many disciples in any sect. The city guard smiled and said, this is the first stage of a war. Those who come to the Imperial Thunder City are all cultivators below the Golden Core realm. How many of them know about refining artifacts and alchemy? Cultivators at your level of cultivation are as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. In other words, there are not many people in this alchemy cave now. To tell you the truth, there are many fellow Taoists who come to this alchemy cave. The city guard nodded. But most of them stay for a few days. At most, they leave after 20 days. There are only about 10 disciples in the alchemy cave now. When fellow Taoist comes out of the alchemy cave, you can use your magic power to activate this token. the token will fly to me. Before I rush to the quiet room, I will check how many materials you have consumed in the alchemy cave. The city guard explained again. Okay.
Got it.
Thank you. Xiaohua took the token and did not ask any more questions. He followed the direction pointed by the city guard. Good boy. Although this cultivator is in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, his aura is restrained. He is different from the other cultivators I saw before. Although his tone is kind, there is an unquestionable tone. It seems like he is ordering me. He is basically like a golden core realm cultivator. After Xiaohua left calmly, the city guard looked at Xiaohua's back and thought to himself. Sure enough, when a wild goose passes by, it leaves a sound, and when a person passes by, it leaves a shadow. In this world, there is no cultivation method that can completely deceive people. Although Xiaohua's cultivation method of deceiving people was very skillful, even when facing a nascent soul realm cultivator, he was calm and unafraid of being recognized. However, after Xiaohua's realm increased, his strength reached the late stage of the golden core realm. When facing an early-stage foundation establishment realm city guard again, how could he have the same attitude as before? Especially after being angry, that tone and manner of doing things was not something an early-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator should have. It was no wonder that this early-stage foundation establishment realm city guard was suspicious. Not to mention that Xiaohua entered the alchemy cave. At the Immortal Music Sex encampment, Li Qingxiu was sitting on a jade chair in a quiet room. On the table beside his hand, there was a cup of spirit tea that was slowly emitting steam. On the jade plate beside him, there were a dozen or so thumb-sized, ice-like spirit fruits. These spirit fruits were strange. They clearly looked sparkling and translucent, but within the translucency, there were countless strands of flesh. The flesh was like catkins that wrapped around the core of the fruit. Li Qingxiu's gaze was looking at these spirit fruits, and he seemed to like them very much. If it was a normal day, he would have already picked one up and put it into his mouth, carefully tasting this clear snow fruit unique to the Sky Patrol City. But today, his eyes revealed a trace of anxiety, waiting for something. After a long while, the spirit tea had already lost its steam. Li Qingxiu couldn't help but stand up and walk out of the quiet room. With a whoosh, a sound transmission talisman flew in. Li Qingxiu raised his eyebrows, obviously very happy. He raised his hand to catch the sound transmission talisman, but when he finished listening to the sound transmission talisman, disappointment appeared on his face. He pinched his hand slightly, and the sound transmission talisman turned into a ray of light that floated in the air. Humph. Really useless things. You only know that Xiaohua didn't come out, but you have no way to find where he is? Is he in the Imperial Thunder Sex encampment? Li Qingxiu snorted coldly and whispered, If it weren't for the fact that I can't use my magic power because of the invisibility talisman, I would have followed behind Xiaohua long ago. Why is it so difficult for you to do something? Can't you get something out of a message? Soon after, Li Qingxiu dispelled the idea of going out and paced back and forth in the quiet room. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he raised his head and said, Could it be that Zheng Jie has encountered some difficulties? 3 late-stage foundation establishment cultivators chasing down a few middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators shouldn't be a problem, right? He's just a servant of a cultivation family. Even if he's at the middle stage of foundation establishment, how could he be a match for a disciple of a cultivation sect? Forget it. Thinking this, Li Qingxiu took out a messaging talisman from his storage pouch and whispered a few words. The messaging talisman flew out. Not long after, an old man with white hair and beard entered the quiet room. He respectfully bowed and said, Junior Huang Yong greets Martial Uncle Li. Does Martial Uncle have any instructions? This old man sent Zheng Jie out to do something, but he hasn't returned for a long time. There's also no news. Go and look for him. Yes. Huang Yong nodded and said, Where did junior martial brother Zheng Jie go? This old man doesn't know either. Li Qingxiu clapped his hands and took out his token. He handed it to Huang Yong and said, Take this token and go to the transmitting formation in Sky Patrol City. Ask about Zheng Jie's whereabouts. You don't have to chase too closely. Just find their traces. Quickly come back and report to this old man." Huang Yong's heart trembled. He took the token and cupped his hands, saying, "This disciple understands. I'll go now. And go quickly and come back quickly." Li Qingxiu hesitated for a moment and said, "Zheng Jie might be chasing after a swordsman from the sword cultivator sect. You should be careful." "Thank you for your concern, martial uncle." Huang Yong's heart warmed, and he hurriedly turned and left. Seeing Huang Yong leave, Li Qingxiu's heart calmed down a little. However, his buttocks had only sat on the jade chair for a moment before he stood up again and said angrily, "Damn it. I asked you to keep an eye on the encampment of the Ardent Fire Mountain. Why hasn't there been any news back yet? Did Huaping go out? Did she go to the auction? Did any strange disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect come to visit? Doesn't she know that I'm anxious?" Chapter 2293. The soul of an 8th grade spirit beast was indeed too rare. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Li Qingxiu to feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. He believed that the situation of the auction would soon reach Taoist Master Blue Feather's ears. He did his best, but in the end, he didn't get the beast cultivator's body. Even if he told Taoist Master Blue Feather about Xiaohua, the beast cultivator's body would have already arrived at Ardent Fire Mountain or died. What use would that be? Rather than that, he might as well directly tell Taoist Blue Feather that he didn't know that Xiaohua was the culprit and push the blame to another Jindan cultivator, or even a nascent soul cultivator. This way, he would be able to retain some face. Letting an early foundation establishment cultivator snatch something from his hands, even if it was during the auction, Li Qingxiu couldn't afford to lose face. This Xiaohua is really cunning. He actually waited for that disciple in the tea house. This old man didn't dare to kill him on the street. When this old man chased after him, I didn't know where he went. This old man hurriedly mobilized disciples to guard the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. When I rushed to the Ardent Fire Mountain's encampment, this guy didn't go to the Ardent Fire Mountain. I don't know where he went in between. Could it be that he already sent the beast cultivator's body out? It's possible. When this old man saw Xiaohua, this guy didn't have a spirit storage bag on his waist. He must have given the spirit storage bag to the disciple of the Ardent Fire Mountain when this old man was watching that disciple and tracking him to the tea house. Then, the disciple of the Ardent Fire Mountain gave it to Huaping. Huaping, you didn't dare to bid with this old man and actually use the hands of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple. You are really too calculating. This old man provoked Xiaohua, which naturally means provoking the Imperial Thunder Sect. And your Ardent Fire Mountain is the driving force behind Xiaohua. Isn't this making this old man offend two sects? Li Qingxiu's face turned cold. This old man isn't that stupid. Since I can't do it openly, this old man will do it secretly. Killing a foundation establishment cultivator is really easy for this old man. But finding the beast cultivator's body is a difficult matter. However, is the face of a golden core cultivator so easily torn? Since he dared to oppose this old man, he should be prepared to be killed. While Li Qingxiu was lost in his thoughts, half a day passed quickly. Huang Yong, who had gone out to look for Zheng Jie, returned. Upon hearing Huang Yong's report, Li Qingxiu was once again in disbelief. You're saying that you found Zheng Jie's mark as soon as you left the teleportation formation, but you didn't find anything when you arrived? Yes, good. Uncle Master knows. Huang Yong's face was also filled with bewilderment. That was indeed a place sealed in ice. There were only glaciers all around, and not a single person could be seen. There were also no traces of transcendence energy being used. Junior brother Zheng Jie's imprint had mysteriously disappeared and could no longer be found. I was afraid that I might have missed something, so I searched everywhere within a radius of 10 miles, but I didn't find any traces. My Immortal Music School's 3 late foundation establishment cultivators just disappeared without a trace. Li Qingxiu didn't know if he was talking to himself or asking Huang Yong. Yes, it's a little strange. Huang Yong smiled apologetically. I'm afraid that sword cultivator is too powerful. Even if it's an illusory sword cultivator, there should be traces of fighting. Of course, Li Qingxiu knew that it couldn't have been done by a sword cultivator. He was just searching in his mind. In the end, which cultivation family was so bold and had such great ability to quietly kill 3 late-stage foundation establishment cultivators from a mortal music sect? However, there were too many cultivation families in Sky Patrol City, so he really couldn't figure it out. It seems that this matter has to fall on Xiao Hua. Li Qingxiu secretly gritted his teeth. Well, you can go now. Li Qingxiu waved his hand. Keep this matter a secret. Don't cause any panic in my school. I understand. I'll keep my mouth shut. Huang Yong panicked and bowed before leaving. Sigh. I'll use the secret method of Sky Patrol City, first to see if Zheng Jie and the others' natal spiritual tablets are broken. Li Qingxiu thought as he left the quiet room and went to the meeting hall. 2 hours later, Li Qingxiu appeared near the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. His face was extremely gloomy. Sure enough, Zheng Jie and the others' natal spiritual tablets are broken. To think that he had been killed without a sound. If I don't find out which cultivation family did it, how can I give up? Thinking about this, he sent out a message charm. Not long after, a cultivator wearing a camouflage cloth slowly flew over. When he saw Li Qingxiu, he immediately removed the cloth. He was an Qi refining disciple. Disciple greets martial ancestrally. Well, what's the situation? Li Qingxiu waved his hand and asked softly. Martial ancestrally. According to Disciple's investigation, Xiao Hua entered the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment and never came out. That's all. Li Qingxiu frowned slightly. Also, the disciple smiled apologetically. Martial ancestrally, it's not that Disciple didn't do his best. Now is the time of the war, so it's not normal. Disciple is a good friend of 1 or 2 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. But they are the same as my Immortal Music sect, and they're all divided into small teams. It is said that Xiao Hua is in the Imperial Thunder Sect's first small team, and they live in a secluded pavilion. The pavilion is protected by restrictions, and those who have nothing to do with it cannot go near it. Oh, the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect? Li Qingxiu suddenly realized and secretly said, aren't they the disciples led by that Imperial Thunder Sect cultivator surnamed Chui? Did they just come back from Chicken Crow Mountain? That's right. Li Qingxiu nodded. You're actually able to find out about the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect. This old man will reward you later. Many thanks, martial ancestor. The disciple was very happy. Continue to wait here. As long as you see Xiao Hua come out, immediately report to this old man. Li Qingxiu whispered. Also, carefully investigate this first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect if there are any other disciples. Yes, disciple understands. The disciple first cupped his hands, then said with difficulty, it's not too difficult to find out what disciples there are, but some Imperial Thunder Sect disciples leave the encampment wearing camouflage cloth. Moreover, the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples don't check their tokens. This little one can't determine which one is Xiao Hua. No matter, you can only see. This old man won't blame you even if you can't. Li Qingxiu said amiably, then immediately changed to Immortal Music School's encampment. This matter is really troublesome. This old man has to think carefully. While walking, Li Qingxiu was still pondering. Xiao Hua didn't know about this. Following the direction pointed by the city guard, he walked into the depths. Sure enough, after passing through a few bends, there were several forks in front of him. There were several spacious roads that led to several different directions. This road was extremely tall, and there were Minghua stones inlaid on it. At a glance, there were different gates arranged in different sections, looking very spectacular. Unfortunately, at this time, it was silent. When Xiao Hua's footsteps landed, it actually made an ear-piercing sound of footsteps that reverberated in the cave. Chapter 2294. Xiao Hua looked around and chose the path in the middle. The doors on both sides of the path were even more magnificent, and the numbers on them were also within 100. As Xiao Hua went deeper into the path, the numbers gradually became smaller. It's here. He saw a big 13 written on the door on his left. Xiao Hua stopped and sized up the door from top to bottom. Then he turned his head to look at the door on his left. The doors closer to the door all had the same appearance. They were tall bluestone rocks with layers of wave-like stripes on them. Between the stripes, there were talismans that looked like scattered pearls. Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and placed the command medallion that the city guard gave him in his palm. As soon as he opened his palm, the number on the door immediately changed. The number twisted strangely and turned into a talisman that Xiao Hua was familiar with. Then, the talisman emitted waves of light that rippled from the center of the door to the outside. At the same time, the wave-like stripes also swelled, and the talismans in between the stripes emitted transformations. Whoosh! A strong suction force came from the door, and the token in Xiao Hua's hand was sucked into it. Like a stone falling on the surface of a lake, a fist-sized rune splashed out from the restriction above the door. When this rune fell in a very strange manner, a milky white brilliance flashed from where the rune fell and split into two halves. It quickly separated into two sides of the door. It was like a stone hitting half the sky. The door suddenly became transparent. It was a huge door. How interesting. Xiao Hua chuckled and scanned with his divine sense. He knew that the restriction had been opened and stepped into the door. Behind the door, the token floated in the air. Behind the door was a huge quiet room that was divided into three parts. On the left was some commonly used materials to refine yellow talismans. In the middle was the earth fire used to refine pills. On the right was the earth fire used to refine weapons. There were a lot of commonly used materials piled up there. A very rich and hot spiritual qi of heaven and earth rushed towards him. It was not compatible with the cold weather of Sky Patrol City. Xiao Hua walked in front of the earth fire with interest and picked up the command token beside it. He tapped it with his hand, and the command token flashed. A scarlet light rushed into the earth fire, and the earth fire gushed out. Looking at the yellow-red earth fire, Xiao Hua inwardly nodded. The quality of this earth fire was indeed not bad. It was exactly what was used for refining pills and refining tools. Then, Xiao Hua extinguished the earth fire and walked to the refining side. He casually looked at the materials used for refining weapons, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. Damn it, Sky Patrol City is really black-hearted. Even if these materials were used in EG, they wouldn't be so expensive. It was no wonder that most of the disciples would rather go to EG and let the cultivators from other shops refine than refine here. Other than being convenient, there's really nothing good about it. Xiao Hua released his divine sense and scanned the entire room. Knowing that there was nothing wrong, he took out a praying mat and sat down. With a slap of his hand, the silver-armored dragon flew out of the space. When he was in the Myriad Thunder Valley, Xiao Hua used the Demon Realm's blood refining method to connect the silver-armored dragon together. However, it was obvious that there was nothing special about connecting these four demonic tools together. It was no different from being separated. Xiao Hua himself was also clear that the connection was only a connection. The entire silver-armored dragon was not completely fused together. If he wanted to display the power of the silver-armored dragon to the extent that Zhang Qingxiao said it could save his life, he would have to put in a lot of hard work. Xiao Hua opened his mouth and spat out the scarlet spiritual fire from his Buddha heart. It floated in the air, as if it was still. Go! Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment and formed a fire seal. The spiritual fire turned into a wisp of fire thinner than a hair and wrapped around the broken part of the silver-armored dragon. However, Xiao Hua was surprised by what happened next. The spiritual fire seemed to be invisible and couldn't land on the silver-armored dragon at all, so there was no way to connect it. Spiritual fire can't be used to refine weapons? This was Xiao Hua's first reaction. After he formed a few fire seals and couldn't do anything, Xiao Hua kept the spiritual fire. It turned into a bean and stood quietly in the air. Staring at the spiritual fire that seemed to be able to melt everything but didn't seem to have any heat at all, Xiaohua was very puzzled. After a long while, Xiaohua suddenly raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Spiritual fire is the origin of fire. Naturally, it can contain all kinds of fire. How can it be used to refine weapons? I'm using a sledgehammer to crack a nut." Thinking of this, Xiaohua kept the spirit stone and opened his mouth, spitting out the icicle Zhu flame. At this time, the icicle Zhu flame was clearly different from before. If the previous weak flame was a seed, then the current icicle Zhu flame had already grown into a big tree. The five-colored brilliance of the icicle Zhu flame devoured the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around it, emitting an astonishing aura like a lion. My goodness, it didn't seem to be this powerful when refining weapons in the Zhongling mountain village. Xiaohua saw the power of the icicle Zhu flame and couldn't help but be surprised. The Luan family said that this fire can melt everything in the world. It's really true. Ha! The heavens are really helping me. That day, Wan Qing had said that when this Linging Zhu flame was at its peak, it could be used to refine the Great Wisdom Sword. It could be compared to the Devil Realm's Devil Fire. His Linging Zhu flame had already declined and was already thin. Of course, it could not be refined. But now, this young master's icicle Zhu flame is gradually growing stronger under the nourishment of the ancient god technique. I'm afraid it can be used to refine the ancient dragon silver gilt. However, this young master has never seen any heart refinement technique until now. The 5 elements refinement technique of the world refinement technique is already the best refinement technique in the world. Thinking of this, Xiaohua silently recited the refining technique of the demon realm and urged the icicle Zhu flame to burn the ancient dragon's silver gilt. After a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua's divine sense had already sensed that there was indeed some movement at the broken part of the ancient dragon's silver gilt. If he used the blood-melting technique, coupled with the icicle Zhu flame and the lightning strike, this ancient dragon's silver gilt would be repaired again.
Great.
Xiaohua clapped and laughed. Second senior brother is indeed not as lucky as this young master. If you had given me this demon jade slip when I was in Gui Hisi, I would have been able to repair the ancient dragon silver gilt when I was in seclusion. Why do you have to go through so much trouble now? Forget it. Let's take a look at the demon jade slip in the blood drop heavenly cave. After the battle is over, I will return to the myriad Thunder Valley to refine this ancient dragon's silver gilt. Xiaohua stored the icicle vermilion flame back into his Buddhist heart and began to nurture it like the spirit fire. He clapped his hands again and took out the many white bones and toad-like soul tools he had obtained from the EG. Xiaohua knew that these white bones and soul items came from millions of Meng mountains. Ordinary Taoist techniques would not be able to find out the details of them, and ordinary cultivators would not know the use of these white bones. Otherwise, they would not have left so many white bones on EG, and no one would bother with them. When Xiaohua closed his eyes, his nascent divinity in the mysterious dark clouds immediately sensed something. That nascent divinity was currently inside the layers of dark clouds, as if Xiaohua was sitting cross-legged inside the dark clouds. It was different from Xiaohua's imagination. That place was like a world of its own. The surroundings were dark and gloomy. Xiaohua's nascent divinity could only sense a small area around him. However, according to Xiaohua's feeling when he first saw this mysterious dark cloud, this dark cloud should be extremely large. Perhaps it was the same as the so-called 9 heavens of spirit origin of soul cultivators. If Xiaohua's cultivation was successful, he should be able to control this mysterious dark cloud. Of course, Xiaohua's soul cultivation technique was still not at the entry level. His nascent divinity was only in the lowest layer of the dark cloud, surrounded by countless soul threads. Following Xiaohua's cultivation, the soul strand seems to be able to breathe, moving back and forth. Xiaohua's nascent divinity moved slightly, but the soul threads seemed to have a life of their own. They stretched out from his nascent divinity and came out through the Dharma eye mark on the forehead of the Buddha relic. Those white bones were scattered in the air. Xiaohua's soul threads wrapped around them like tentacles. Xiao Hua finished laughing. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The Dao Sex technique was still in his meridians, but the nascent divinity in the mysterious dark clouds was different. Chapter 2295. Just like a real person, his primordial spirit floated in an extremely rhythmic manner. Just like breathing, the surrounding soul strands also bared their fangs and brandished their claws, waving in the air in accordance with the rhythm of the primordial spirit. Along with the swaying of the soul strands, the space around the primordial spirit also underwent subtle changes. Those changes were very profound and extremely small, like the clouds parting to see the sun, and also like the birth of a dark cloud. In short, little by little, an almost imperceptible faint brilliance was born. This brilliance was different from the brilliance of the Dao Sex magic arts. That brilliance was activated by magic power and emitted by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This brilliance was abruptly born because of the soul strands and the primordial spirit's fluctuations. Moreover, Xiao Hua's primordial spirit, as if sinking to the bottom of the sea, gradually gained a kind of floating power, showing signs of rising to the top of the clouds. Good. Sensing the changes in the primordial spirit and the dancing soul strands, Xiao Hua secretly rejoiced in his heart and pulled his mind out of the primordial spirit. Using the mysterious fluctuations to temper the primordial spirit, using the dancing soul strands to assist the primordial spirit becomes increasingly pure. When the primordial spirit is completely bright and illuminates the entire sky, the primordial spirit will also rise to the peak of the sky. When the primordial spirit breaks through the sky and enters the clear spirit sky, then it will have cultivated to the second heaven. Let my primordial spirit cultivate. Let this young master see what the peak of soul cultivation is. What exactly is the soul? Let this young master show everyone the mystery of the soul. This sword cultivation battle is a disaster for others, but for this young master, it is really a rare opportunity. After the soul cultivation technique was settled, Xiao Hua looked at the withered toad again. This was a withered toad. What the naked eye, Buddha sense, and divine sense saw was the same. However, when Xiao Hua pulled out a soul strand and touched the toad, a burst of green light burst out, and the same wave of rough fluctuations was transmitted into the soul strand. Yes, Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He split off a portion of his Yuan divinity to comprehend the fluctuations. After a while, he nodded and smiled. It really is a soul armament. But this soul armament is different from the soul-sucking bell. As he spoke, Xiao Hua sent out a few more soul strands that wrapped around the toad. The soul strands swayed slightly, and the toad gradually grew larger. Then, Xiao Hua sent a few more soul strands into the toad's back. Croak. With a cry that seemed to have the power to seize souls, a thick tongue shot out from the toad's mouth. Go. Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the two soul-absorbing bells flew into the air. The toad's tongue had hit the bell. Clang. The soul-absorbing bell was rung. The sound was like the sound of a large yellow bell. Even Xiao Hua's ears were not used to it. Granny, how is this the soul-absorbing bell from before? It should be called the soul-suppressing bell, or perhaps this is the real soul-absorbing bell. Xiao Hua was extremely astonished. Previously, I had to use a secret technique first before I could use this soul-absorbing bell. Now, I only need to activate the soul-absorbing bell, and the souls of cultivators within a radius of several zhang will be shaken into chaos, and may even be pulled out. A soul cultivator's soul armament is really unfathomable. With this soul cultivator's weapon, it's even more powerful than the soul thorn. Who would be afraid of a sword cultivator's siege? Xiao Hua happily stored the soul-absorbing bell and the toad into the space. After arranging the soul cultivator's items properly, Xiao Hua frowned again. He waved his hand and took out a shabby jade from the space. This jade was obtained by Xiao Hua in the Ink Cloud Black Forest. It should have been picked up by the Gold Core Old Man in the Ink Cloud Black Forest. It was already abnormally damaged. Xiao Hua originally had a portion of his Yuan divinity split out to comprehend these damaged cultivation methods and secret techniques. Moreover, it was the cultivation methods he obtained. For example, some of the cultivation methods he obtained from Zhang Qingxiao, and so on. The reason why Xiao Hua took out this jade pendant was because this jade pendant recorded a simplified green seal text. Moreover, the incomplete cultivation method inside was very strange. His Yuan divinity had been comprehending it for a long time and could already determine that it was absolutely not something cultivated by a human cultivator. Or rather, it was a secret technique that did not rely on the body's meridians to cultivate. This is strange. Xiao Hua inserted his Buddhist awareness into the jade. Looking at the green seal script, he held his chin with one hand and continuously scratched it. He secretly pondered in his heart, this cultivation method is somewhat similar to the Buddhist sect's Vajra Dharma body, but it also has some relation to Shang Huaming's Qi refinement cultivation method. It is even somewhat similar to the celestial body bestowment technique. If it was used on the Phoenix Dharma body, it would be suitable. Unfortunately, the requirements of this secret technique are too harsh. It actually needs the world's spiritual energy to cleanse the body. This Dawn Rain continent is admittedly rich in world's spiritual energy, but until now, I have never truly seen a storm of world's spiritual energy. Oh, right. If that's the case, the netherworld wind in the dark mystery is actually similar to the world's spiritual energy for cleansing the body. Damn it, if I could have obtained the secret technique at that time, wouldn't I have been able to use this secret technique to refine the Phoenix Dharma body? Alas, just relying on the natural infusion of the netherworld wind is still too shallow. These years, this Phoenix Dharma body has not made any progress at all. Forget it. I'll wait for a chance in the future. Xiao Hua thought and put the jade into the space, still giving it to the Yuan divinity to comprehend. Moreover, he placed Shang Huaming's Qi refinement cultivation method, celestial body bestowment technique, Vajra Dharma body, and even the heavenly laws embodiment technique in one place for the Yuan divinity to refer to. And it's time to look at those pill recipes. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and held those jade slips that he had exchanged for at a great price in his hands. Xiao Hua first looked at the pill recipe for the Azure Spirit pill. It was exactly as he had said to that cultivator. Inside, there were only the types and quantities of various spiritual herbs. There was not even a trace of the refining method. Looking at the blank space, it was actually erased by that cultivator. This cultivator. I wonder which sect he's from. He actually grasped so many pill recipes. Xiao Hua thought to himself. If there's no accident, he's also a gold core cultivator. It seems that during the auction that day, there really were a lot of gold core cultivators. Alas, I'm really lucky. If these gold core cultivators all wanted to bid for Dai Er's body, it really wouldn't be easy for this young master to obtain it. However, for the sake of the Empress, even if this young master has to stake it all, this young master will still bid for her. After looking at the pill recipe, Xiao Hua pondered for a moment. With a wave of his hand, the three-legged vermilion bird phoenix pattern furnace appeared in the quiet room. Xiao Hua didn't use the earth fire in the quiet room. With a wave of his hand, the Samadhi true fire ignited and warmed the pill furnace. Then, he took out the various spiritual herbs needed to refine the Azure Spirit pill and placed them in front of him. Then, he took out a jade slip and carefully examined it. As he examined it, he waved his hand and various spiritual herbs fell into his hand. He carefully examined them. Occasionally, Xiao Hua even put the spiritual herbs in his mouth and carefully tasted their flavor. Chapter 2296. When Xiao Hua finished looking at the various spiritual herbs for the Azure Spirit pill, the pill furnace was also warm. Xiao Hua opened the pill furnace, and the various spiritual herbs were thrown into the pill furnace according to a certain order, and began to refine the medicinal liquid. And he took out the spiritual herbs from the other pill formulas. Just like the Azure Spirit pill, he carefully looked at them. As he looked at the pill formulas one by one, Xiao Hua's brows gradually wrinkled, as if he couldn't figure out the reason. He put down the pill formulas and looked at the pill furnace again, looking at the boiling medicinal liquid in the pill furnace. Am I being too simplistic? If it's just the principle of the 5 elements and the way of yin and yang, I'm afraid 4 or 5 spiritual herbs are enough. And in these pill formulas, which one of them has so few spiritual herbs? In these pill formulas, some of the spiritual herbs clearly have nothing to do with the pill, so why do they have to be listed? This young master doesn't have the specific refining method, so I'm afraid I can't know the use of these spiritual herbs. What should I do? Xiaohua secretly scratched his head and waited for a long time. Seeing that the pill liquid was almost refined and needed to be melted, Xiaohua's brows suddenly relaxed, and he hit his forehead with his hand and said with a smile, "This young master is thinking too much." These pill formulas have been passed down for thousands of years, and in these years, they have been tempered thousands of times, and after many changes, they have become what they are today. Presumably, in the beginning, there were only a few simple spiritual herbs. Only a pill formula that can be used to refine pills is a true pill formula. No matter how good yours truly's thoughts are, there are bound to be flaws in it. These useless spirit herbs must have been added in later during the refining process, right? Just like refining, adding some materials can enhance the performance of the magic tool, but if you don't add it, it doesn't matter. After thinking it through, Xiaohua was spirited again, and he continued to look at the many pill formulas. He didn't lack spiritual herbs, but he needed time to refine pills. When the idea in his heart matured, he only needed to take the spiritual herbs and refine it. But at this time, Xiaohua thought of another thing. That was the legend of the 100 Herbs Sex Medicine Farmer Peak that Zhang Qingxiao mentioned in Yellow Flower Ridge. Needless to say, since he wanted to trace the pill formulas used for refining pills, he naturally had to think of the legendary medicine farmer. Therefore, Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out the Medicine King tripod from the space. In fact, Xiaohua had not intended to take the Medicine King tripod earlier. After all, the 100 Herbs Gate now belonged to Xiao Xinrui. Everything should be left to her, or to Jiang Luer. He thought that Xiao Xianrui's cultivation had not yet recovered, and there were many matters regarding the 100 Herbs Gate that had yet to be resolved. Under Xiao Xianrui's persuasion, Xiaohua also took it. His space was the most stable place in the Dawn Rain continent, so he could return it to Xiao Xianrui in the future. It's just an ordinary magic tool. Xiaohua's strength had long reached the Jindan stage, so he knew the details of the Medicine King tripod just by scanning it with his divine sense. He smiled secretly and said, "I'm afraid that the 100 Herbs Gate knows that it is a small sect and thinks too highly of itself, so it has no reason to make up some groundless legends. This way, no one will dare to look down on 100 Herbs Gate." As he spoke, Xiaohua was about to take back the Medicine King tripod. However, at that moment, Xiaohua suddenly stopped as if he had a telepathic connection. That's not right. If it's a compiled legend, it should have included the 100 Herbs Gate as well. But why is there only Yao Nong Peak in the legend? Second senior brother's memory is no small matter. Something that can make the head of the heavenly demon sect say, is not that simple. Moreover, after the ancient times, at that time, the Taoist sect had just risen. Even an ordinary magic tool was extremely powerful. This Medicine King tripod looks ordinary. Could there be something else strange about it? Thinking of this, Xiaohua waved his hand and placed the Medicine King tripod on the ground. He slowly hit it with different spells in his hand. After a while, there was no change in the Medicine King cauldron. Then, Xiaohua released the Buddhist Araira, the 2 Buddhist supernatural powers, and the Buddhist consciousness, but the Medicine King cauldron still did not respond. In the end, Xiaohua released the soul strands again, just like when he had refined the wizard puppet. As soon as the soul thread came out, there was a slight reaction in the Medicine King cauldron. It seemed that some green light was emitted from the Medicine King cauldron, but the light was blocked by the thick shell of the Medicine King cauldron. Oh, this is a soul tool? Or a wizard tool? Xiaohua suddenly realized, but it was taken by the cultivators of the Taoist sect. With this wizard tool as the core, they sacrificially refined it into a magic tool. Damn it, isn't this buying the casket and returning the pearl? Immediately after, Xiaohua opened his eyes and struck out a magic seal in his hand. The earth fire that he took out to refine tools was generated with a tung sound. Laozi was still thinking that this earth fire wouldn't move at all. It's hard to explain. Now, it's good. I want to see who is so blind. Xiao Hua threw the Medicine King tripod on the earth fire, and the 5 elements refining technique was used after a little thought. However, after half a day of hard work, the outer layer of the Medicine King tripod was taken off little by little, and the inside was the size of a fist. An incense burner, like an oil lamp. After extinguishing the earth fire, Xiao Hua closed his eyes again and released the soul strands. He saw that the incense burner was wrapped in layers of green brilliance. It was the same green seal text as the wizard puppet. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua did not have the method of sacrificially refining this thing. He only tried to wrap the soul strands around the incense burner according to the wizard puppet's method, but none of the green seal text on the incense burner lit up. Seeing this situation, Xiao Hua understood that his method was wrong. If he could not get the method of sacrificially refining, the incense burner would always be an incense burner. Forget it, Xiao Hua thought as he retrieved the soul thread. However, he was unwilling to give up. With a flip of his hand, he took out the toad again. After the soul thread entered the toad's green tongue hit the incense burner with a loud, dang sound. The green light on the incense burner flourished. Although all the green seal text did not light up, a mountain peak faintly appeared in the green brilliance above the incense burner. Yaonong Peak. Xiao Hua had been to Yaonong Peak, so he could see it at a glance. Just as he understood what was going on, the misty green light disappeared again.
Dang, dang, dang.
Xiao Hua mustered all of his strength and pulled out all of his soul strands, using the toad to hit the incense burner. However, even in the end, Xiao Hua still could only see the outline of the medicine farmer peak. If there was anything strange inside, he still couldn't see it. Xiao Hua understood that this should be because his soul cultivation realm was not enough, and the power of the soul strands was not enough. Forget it. It's fine as long as I know how to deal with this thing. Xiao Hua was not dispirited. He waved his hand and put the incense burner into the space. He thought to himself, it won't be too late to look at it again when my soul cultivation realm is high. Immediately, Xiao Hua calmed his heart and cultivated refining pills. Unknowingly, dozens of days passed. The Azure Spirit Pill was successfully refined as expected, and Xiao Hua also finished looking at the pill recipe. According to his Qi Huang technique, as well as the Tao of Yin and Yang, he already had a certain idea in his heart. However, he was now wholeheartedly refining the Azure Spirit Pill, so he did not have time to try to configure the pill recipe and refine the pill. The matter of the pill recipe was settled. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then took out the storage pouches he obtained from Chicken Crow Mountain and looked through the things inside. Sure enough, in addition to the sword slips he saw before, Xiao Hua found 4 or 5 more sword slips. Although the sword arts in these sword slips were at most at the drawing sword realm, they were superior in the first-grade illusory sword realm. Compared to Master Bright's sword and Li Xiaobai's sword arts, they were much more detailed. Great! Xiao Hua clapped his hands again. This time's trade fair was really a fruitful trip. Immediately, while refining pills, Xiao Hua immersed his divine sense into the sword slips. He looked at the sword slips one by one, comprehending how sword cultivators nurtured and controlled their swords. The more he looked, the more Xiao Hua was moved. The previous contempt on his face also disappeared. It turned out that sword cultivators' sword arts were far from as simple as Xiao Hua thought. It was also not something that could be covered by the sword plays the world. It was undeniable that the sword plays the world was an extremely powerful sword-controlling technique. However, it was still a sword-controlling technique. It was different from a sword cultivator's sword arts. A sword cultivator's sword arts were a complete set of flying sword cultivation methods. Not to mention nurturing and forging the sword, using the primordial spirit to control the sword was not something the sword plays the world could cover. While Xiao Hua looked, he formed a sword art with his hands. Buddha fire flew out of the execution dream, transforming into 2 colors of green and red, flying around in the quiet room. It was like a small swallow, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes high, sometimes low. Wung. With a huge vibration, the execution dream suddenly expanded to the size of an ordinary flying sword. It stood upright in midair. That faintly discernible sword intent waved out along with the green and red brilliance, unexpectedly also had a trace of sword-forming power. Using the primordial spirit to control the sword means using the primordial spirit as one's own body. While cultivating the flying sword, it is also tempering the primordial spirit. The more condensed the primordial spirit is, the more powerful the flying sword will be. That day in front of Rooster Crow Mountain, when the sword came from afar, thousands of swords bowed their heads. It was not because the flying sword was powerful, but because the sword intent was superb, and because the primordial spirit was arrogant. Just like my Dao Sex Foundation establishment cultivators in front of a gold core cultivator, even if they did not release their aura, that natural aura could make a foundation establishment cultivator bow their heads. Oh, that sword intent leaking out is just like the cultivator's aura. I'm afraid only a primordial spirit this condensed can fight against millions of soul cultivators in Meng Mountain. Xiao Hua suddenly realized. If it was my Dao Sex cultivators, I'm afraid it would not be easy to deal with the soul cultivator's mysterious soul techniques.
Great.
Now that my primordial spirit is at 10, it is time to temper it. This sword cultivation technique is tailor-made for me. The more Xiao Hua looked, the happier he was. It was as if he had eaten spirit herbs, his whole body was comfortable. After a few more days, Xiao Hua had a realization. And regarding the 9 stars transit, controlling many flying swords like this was not my idea at first, to split a few more primordial spirits. That was because the primordial spirit was as strong as the previous one, and it was not easy to form the 9 stars transit. The correct method should be to split the primordial spirit brand from the primordial spirit of the dream executioner and carve it into the other 8 sword orbs. This way, there will be a master and a subordinate, and there will not be a conflict. Although the method of carving the primordial spirit is not written in this sword technique, the tone is full of praise. I vaguely feel that it is a profound secret technique of sword cultivators. Chapter 2297. Soon, another 20 days passed. Counting with his fingers, it had been more than 2 months since Xiao Hua entered the quiet room. On this day, Xiao Hua placed a furnace of cyan spirit pills into his space. He had just placed several kinds of spirit herbs into the furnace and was about to quench the impurities when Xiao Hua's heart moved. He clapped his hand and took out the quiet room's command medallion. He pointed his hand, and a of light flew out from the command medallion and hit the door's restriction. A fist-sized hole immediately appeared on the door, and a summoning talisman flew in. Alas, what will come will come. Xiao Hua crushed the messaging talisman, and Shui Hongshan's voice came from it, telling him to go back. What a pity for this young master's pills. Xiao Hua looked at the 3-legged vermilion bird phoenix pattern furnace with heartache. I just threw in the spiritual herbs. Shui Hongshan, if you sent a messaging talisman earlier, you would have died. Alas, if this young master could refine pills in the space, how good would that be? Xiao Hua just sighed with emotion at this moment, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He slapped his forehead and said fiercely, "Damn it, I was thinking about how to control the sword to kill people. Why didn't I think of it? Since the primordial spirit can control the sword, it can naturally control the sword. Since it can control the sword, it can control the magic. Since it can control the magic, of course it can generate samadhi, true fire. If no one disturbs this young master in the space, this young master can directly use the primordial spirit to refine pills. Wouldn't that be perfect?" This young master didn't think of this before, because I just started using the primordial spirit to control the sword. I haven't cultivated to the stage of using the primordial spirit to control the magic. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua was in no hurry to go out. He hurriedly took out the sword slip again and immersed his divine sense in it to quickly check. Sure enough, at the end of the sword slip of a drawing swordsman, there were some records of the primordial spirit controlling the sword. However, this kind of secret technique could only be used by sword transformation cultivators, and the sword slip of the drawing sword swordsman didn't record it. Haha, this young master is really a genius. Xiao Hua almost jumped up. If he could temper his primordial spirit to the point that he could refine pills in the space, then wouldn't he be able to refine pills at any time? If he could refine pills, then wouldn't he be able to refine magic tools and magic treasures? Wouldn't he be able to make full use of this space? It's a pity. The realms of these sword cultivators are simply too low. They don't have any primordial spirit control secret arts. Xiao Hua was somewhat regretful. This young master will first take a look at the jade slips left behind by Li Xiaobai and Daoist Master Bright Sword. If there aren't any, then I can only kill more sword cultivators. Good heavens, a sword transformation swordsman. This young master still has to raise his cultivation. Otherwise, how can I kill a sword transformation swordsman? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua put away the pill furnace and looked left and right to make sure he didn't miss anything. He was about to leave the quiet room, but after taking a few steps, Xiao Hua stopped and turned his head to look at the refining area. He waved his hand, and some of the commonly used refining materials were stored in the space. Then he looked at the refining area and took some of the materials as well. Only then did he walk out of the quiet room. Following the city guard's instructions, he slightly activated the token. The token whistled and turned into a ray of light that shot toward the entrance of the pill refining cave. Xiao Hua stood at the side of the courtyard, waiting for the arrival of the city guards. At this time, a milky white brilliance flashed a bit further inside. Similarly, another cultivator came out from the pill refining cave's quiet room. Xiao Hua heard the voice and looked over. It's actually him. Xiao Hua was fine if he didn't look. Once he looked, his eyes unconsciously shrank. The person who came out from the pill refining cave's quiet room was none other than Li Qingxiu of Immortal Music Sect. During this period of time, Li Qingxiu was very unhappy. The disciples that he sent out to keep an eye on Imperial Thunder Sect and Ardent Fire Mountain were all empty-handed. He found several opportunities to probe Huiping but was always evaded by Huiping without leaving a trace. He almost wanted to directly force Huiping. Fortunately, Daoist Master Lan Yu, who was far away in Immortal Music Sect, didn't send any condemnation. He didn't know if Daoist Master Lan Yu didn't know about this matter, or if Daoist Master Lan Yu wasn't in Immortal Music Sect. Li Qingxiu naturally didn't dare to inquire further. Thus, Li Qingxiu was really bored in Immortal Music Sect's encampment. The battle with the sword cultivators in front of him suddenly calmed down. He ran into the pill refining cave and repaired his magic treasure. Actually, rather than saying it was repairing, it was better to say that he needed to calm his mind and clear his head. But coincidentally, just as he had some plans in his heart, he met his enemy when he came out of the quiet room. Naturally, Li Qingxiu's eyes flashed with a trace of astonishment at first, then it was followed by enlightenment, followed by killing intent.
How could Xiao Hua not know?
He was also stunned. Then he hesitated. Of course, he wasn't afraid of Li Qingxiu, but obviously if Li Qingxiu made a move, he would definitely kill him. However, this was a golden core cultivator, especially a golden core cultivator sent by Immortal Music Sect to the conference hall. His death would definitely attract the attention of all the cultivators in Sentry City and even all the cultivators in the cultivation world. Then, Xiao Hua's own strength and his own secret would be difficult to protect. Next, he would definitely be hunted down. What should I do? Xiao Hua opened his mouth slightly, and the spiritual fire had already flown to his mouth. At this critical moment, Xiao Hua's eyes turned, and with a look of sudden realization, he hurriedly bowed and said, "So, it's Martial Uncle Li from Immortal Music Sect." Long before the banquet of the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain in Haoming City, we haven't seen each other for several years. This junior is Xiao Hua from Imperial Thunder Sect. I wonder if senior still remembers me? Humph. Li Qingxiu sneered in his heart. Damn it. I'll let you pretend. Do you think this old man doesn't know that the one who made me lose face in the previous auction was you? You actually dare to mention Ardent Fire Mountain in front of this old man? Li Qingshu activated his magic power, and his left hand was about to reach out. You're really courting death. Xiao Hua had already released his Buddhist sense, and when he bowed, he could see clearly. He was very puzzled. He had already pointed out the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain and warned him to think twice before acting, but he actually still wanted to court death. He made himself passive. Senior, have you sent out your token? Xiao Hua hurriedly said, This junior has already called the city guards of Sentry City. Senior, please wait here for a moment. Those city guards will come over.
Oh?
Li Qingshu was stunned. He raised his hand half an inch and put it down, and his magic power also condensed. Li Qingshu originally wanted to injure Xiao Hua while no one was paying attention. He wanted to interrogate and even search his soul to find out the whereabouts of the beast cultivator's body. He was also clear that it had been 2 months. The beast cultivator's body had already fallen, or his soul had already been extracted. It was just that he really hated Xiao Hua to the bone. After interrogation, he naturally wanted to kill him with his own hands. Since no one saw Xiao Hua, it was unknown when the city guards found him missing. If it was an extreme possibility, no one would investigate. Even if Imperial Thunder Sect wanted to investigate, Sentry City knew that he might have stayed in the Alchemy Cave. Of course, he could deal with Sentry City. He had never seen Xiao Hua, so what did his disappearance have to do with him? Besides, at that time, he was no longer in the Alchemy Cave. He had hundreds of excuses. He believed that Sentry City would not make things difficult for a golden core cultivator in the discussion hall. Just these few moves might be discovered by the city guards. Junior greets seniorly. When the city guards saw Xiao Hua and Li Qingshu together, he hurriedly bowed and said, Senior also wants to come out of seclusion? Naturally, but you don't seem to be the Heavenly Patrol City's disciple on duty at my immortal music sect, right? Li Qingshu nodded and said, No matter, if Senior comes out of seclusion, you just need to give me your token. The city guard respectfully replied. And here you go. Li Qingshu waved his hand, and a token similar to Xiao Hua's flew to the city guard. Okay, Senior, please. The city guard received it, scanned it with his divine sense, and replied respectfully. Farewell, Senior. Xiao Hua said with a smile as he bowed.
And
Li Qingshu nodded slightly. He was very unwilling in his heart as he lifted his foot and left. Xiao Hua sighed in relief. Fellow Taoist, I will go down and check your pill refining cave. If there's nothing wrong, you just need to give me the spirit stones, and you can leave. The city guard Xiao Hua was rather respectful. Okay. Xiao Hua nodded, but then he asked curiously, Right, just now, Senior Li's pill refining cave. Why didn't you check it? I'll let you know. The seniors in the discussion hall don't need spirit stones to use the pill refining cave. Naturally, I don't need to check it. The city guard said with a smile. This doesn't seem fair. Xiao Hua sighed and said, The Golden Core seniors have more spirit stones than us. If we don't ask them for spirit stones, who should we ask? The city lord has decreed that the Golden Core seniors are working for the Dao sect of our Siuyu continent. Our Sky Patrol City should also express our gratitude. They are working for our Sky Patrol City by using our pill refining cave. How can our Sky Patrol City take their spirit stones? The city guard said Sky Patrol City proudly.
Fine.
Xiao Hua sneered unhappily. The ones who are going to fight with the sword cultivators are us, not them. Your flattery of the Sky Patrol City is too straightforward. A smile appeared on the city guard's face. He didn't say anything else and went into the quiet room to check. According to the materials and talisman paper that Xiao Hua consumed, he converted the spirit stones into spirit stones and then sent Xiao Hua out of the pill refining cave. Fellow Taoist, you are indeed amazing. Not only can you repair artifacts, but you can also refine yellow talismans. When they walked to the entrance of a cave, the city guard hesitated for a long time before saying, I'm Chang Shu, and I admire your cultivation. If you don't mind, can you leave me a message talisman? I can... Oh. Xiao Hua understood Chang Shu's intention to befriend him. He looked him up and down and said with a smile, I have scolded you earlier. Don't tell me you want to leave something behind and complain to my teacher?
How can I?
Although Chang Shu was a little embarrassed, he saw Xiao Hua smile and knew that Xiao Hua didn't reject him. He quickly smiled and said, I really admire you and want to befriend you. It's just that I'm just a city guard of the Sky Patrol City. I'm a bit of a social climber. Haha, it's okay. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out his message talisman and threw it over. He said with a smile, Don't ask about a hero's origin. You are a city guard of the Sky Patrol City. Before I joined the Imperial Thunder Sect, I was just a rogue cultivator.
Oh.
You're a rogue cultivator? Chang Shu said with a smile. I also know a few rogue cultivators. Their character is excellent. If there's a chance in the future, I can introduce them to you. Okay, let's talk about it when there's a chance. Xiao Hua didn't rule out the possibility of being a rogue cultivator. He cupped his hands and said, I'm Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Greetings, fellow Chang. Greetings, fellow Xiao. Chang Shu also solemnly returned the greeting and took out his message talisman. Then, the two of them exchanged a few words, and Xiao Hua took his leave. When Xiao Hua returned to the front of the pavilion, as expected, everyone had been waiting anxiously. Cui Hongshan's face was even more unsightly. There was an unfamiliar disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect standing next to him. What did you do? Cui Hongshan said coldly, Today is the day when dozens of teams of my Imperial Thunder Sect go out together. Senior brother Zhenyun specially came to see my first team off. You've already sent out the message talisman for a long time, but there's still no reply, nor is there even a shadow of you. Seeing Cui Hongshan's angry appearance and the not-so-exaggerated expressions of Zhenhua and the others, Xiao Hua knew that he must have been berated by Zhenyun. His idea of showing off in front of the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples was stifled by Zhenyun, and he even lost face once again. Xiao Hua was originally unable to explain why he was late, and at this moment, he was even more disinclined to explain. He waved his hand and said, Did I delay the departure time? Not yet, but Cui Hongshan still wanted to say, but he was stopped by Xiao Hua, who said, Since there's no delay, what can I do if I'm late? Can I go to the toilet? Pfft. The disciple standing at the side was originally watching, but at this moment, he couldn't help but laugh. Then, he immediately adjusted his expression and coughed. Cough, cough. Captain Cui, since your first team's disciples are all here, then hurry up and set off. Although there's still some free time, there are already many disciples waiting in front of the teleportation array. Today, you all have to teleport out and avoid the eyes and ears of the sword cultivators. You have to be the first to do this. Yes, I understand. Cui Hongshan glared at Xiao Hua and replied helplessly. Teleportation? Xiao Hua walked to the back of the team and was slightly stunned. He whispered to Dui Ling in front of him. What's the mission of our first team this time? Where are we going?
Sure.
I don't know either. Dui Ling replied. Just now, Captain Cui hurriedly called us out of the quiet room, but he didn't say where we were going. We just lined up here and waited. The disciples of the other teams also came out. Even Marshal Uncle Zhen Yin didn't say where we were going.
Oh.
Xiao Hua nodded. I'm afraid even Cui Hongshan himself doesn't know where to go. Sure enough, just as Xiao Hua expected, under the guidance of the Imperial Thunder Sect disciple, Xiao Hua and the others left the Imperial Thunder Sect's encampment. There were already several teams of disciples waiting in front of them. Several teams were gathered together and led by another disciple on duty to the teleportation array in Sky Patrol City. During this time, Xiao Hua asked Jin Minghui again, but he was also confused. He only said that the disciple on duty held Jinyun's token and called him and Cui Hongshan out. He didn't tell them where to go at all. Snow was still falling in Sky Patrol City, but it was much lighter than on the day of the auction. It was unknown whether it was because the snow was lighter or because today was the day of the Dao Sect's operation, but there were many more cultivators walking and flying on the streets of Sky Patrol City. Although Xiao Hua and the others didn't fly slowly, It still took them half an hour to arrive at a teleportation array in the north of Sky Patrol City. In front of them was a mountain that was even larger than the location of the alchemy cave. The huge rocks were frozen into icicles that were a few feet long and emitted a silver light. The snowflakes that fell on them didn't block the brilliance and were quickly frozen in the brilliance. Xiao Hua and the others obviously came a little late. In the huge square in front of the mountain, there were already many cultivators waiting. Chapter 2299. These cultivators wore different Taoist robes and stood in different areas. Some were whispering, some were transmitting their voices. Their expressions were also different. However, Xiao Hua could clearly see that no matter what expression they had, the bottom layer of their eyes was a little excited and a little determined. Just wait here. The disciple on duty pointed to a corner of the square. There was already a group of Imperial Thunder Sect disciples waiting there. Yes. The team leaders all nodded and brought their respective disciples to the front. They stood casually and waited quietly. Soon, dozens of teams from various sects gathered. In the time it took to eat half a meal, the entire square was filled. Disciples on duty, come here. A loud and dignified voice rang out. Everyone looked up and saw dozens of golden core cultivators flying out of the teleportation array in midair. They were standing there, and the one in front was a hale and hearty old man. The voice had come from the old man's mouth. Li Qingshu, who came out of the pill refining cave earlier, also stood there as if nothing had happened. In an instant, the entire square was silent. No one dared to say a word. Dozens of Foundation establishment cultivators flew into the air from various parts of the square. They bowed in front of that cultivator and said, "Greetings, Martial Uncle Yuan." This cultivator was the Kunlun Sect's Golden Core cultivator on duty today, Yuan Zhongyu. In order to prevent sword cultivators from finding out the purpose of this operation, you all will follow the usual practice. Collect the team leader tokens from each sect and throw them into this container. The mission of each team will also be sealed in the team leader tokens. The restriction will only be removed after you leave the transportation array. Even I don't know where your teams are going and what mission you have. As he spoke, Yuan Zhongyu slapped his hand. A large square cauldron flew out from his storage bag. When that square cauldron landed in the air, it immediately expanded. It was only half a zhong in size. Red and green light gushed out of the square cauldron. Yes, this junior understands. The dozens of Foundation establishment cultivators cupped their hands and flew back. With a wave of his hand, Cui Hongshin and the other team leaders hurriedly took out their team leader tokens and flew into their hands. The Utopia faction, Yuan Zhongyu took out another jade archive, immersed his divine thought in it, and read aloud. "Disciple is here." A Foundation establishment cultivator hurried forward. Yuan Zhongyu glanced at the disciple and nodded. "Put the token in." "Yes." The disciple of the Utopia faction waved his hand, and dozens of tokens fell into the square cauldron. After a while, the tokens flew out again, and when they fell into the disciple's hand, they became dim again.
Go.
Yuan Zhongyu waved his hand and said, "Return the tokens to each team. According to the arrangement of Sky Patrol City, all of you will leave through different teleportation formations." "Yes, disciple understands." The disciple bowed, turned around, and descended into the air. The disciples of the Utopia faction, who were standing in a corner of the square, were led by the city guard of the Sky Patrol City to the mountain in front of them. Then, Yuan Zhongyu did not rush to call the second faction. He waited for the disciples of the Utopia faction to enter the mountain. After a while, he called for the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction. After a meal, the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction were called. When Cui Hongshin received the return team leader token and fell to the ground, several city guards of the Sky Patrol City, who were not far away, raised their hands and asked the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction to follow them into the mountain. Xiao Hua and the others entered from the leftmost side of the mountain. It was a huge cave guarded by dozens of city guards of the Sky Patrol City. There was a strong fluctuation of magic power in front of the cave, which indicated that there was a very powerful restrictive spell in the cave. Just as Xiao Hua entered the cave, he did not forget to slightly release his Buddha sense. It was very strange. Li Qingxiu did not look in this direction, as if he did not know that Xiao Hua was in the first team of the Imperial Thunder faction.
Oh,
what is this guy planning to do? Xiao Hua was a little confused. Forget it. Let's deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. If he doesn't come, it's fine. If he comes, we must kill him. The inside of the cave was very spacious, which was several times larger than the elixir production cave. The high ceiling of the cave was several feet high, and the width of the cave was also several feet. When they walked in, there were some noisy echoes. At the end of the cave, there was another huge space. A layer of green, red, and yellow light shield firmly protected the space. The city guard stopped in front of the light shield and turned to the disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction and said, "Fellow cultivators, please enter with your team leader token in your hand." All disciples of the Imperial Thunder faction should also take out their own tokens. The defense array of this teleportation device will allow you to enter with a token in your hand. All cultivators without a token will be attacked. In addition, please note that the token can only be used once. Those who enter will not be able to enter again after exiting. The order of entry must also be careful. Wait for one team to enter before the other teams can enter. Otherwise, the cultivators in the first team will not be able to enter again. There were probably 10 teams following the Sky Patrol City's city guard, which made up about 100 people. After hearing the Sky Patrol City's disciples' reminder, one of the team leaders nodded and said, "In that case, let's follow the names of the teams. Whoever is in front will enter first."
great.
Another team leader nodded. "I am the 10th team. Is there anyone with a smaller number than mine? I am the first team. I will enter first." Cui Hongshin raised the token in his hand, feeling a little proud. Compared to the team's number, who could be ahead of them? The first team? The team leader of the 10th team was obviously a little stunned. However, when he saw the number 1 on the token in Cui Hongshin's hand, he nodded and cupped his hands. "Junior brother Cui, please. I hope that after this battle, we can still see the number of the first team." The Heavenly Thunder Palace's disciples' words sounded very awkward. It could even be interpreted as a provocation or a curse toward the first team. However, Cui Hongshin did not think so. After the battle at Chicken Crow Mountain, he knew that the cultivators who participated in the battle, regardless of whether they were Qi Refinement or Foundation Establishment, were insignificant. Their life and death were only separated by a fine line. Hence, he cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Senior Brother Qian. I also want to drink and chat with you in the Sky Patrol City after this battle."
Great.
"It's a deal." A smile appeared on Senior Brother Qian's face as he reached out and clapped hands with Cui Hongshin. "Let's go." After that, Cui Hongshin waved his hand and stepped into the light shield without another glance. Just as the city guard said, as soon as Cui Hongshin's figure touched the light shield, a burst of brilliance surged and rushed toward Cui Hongshin like dense dark clouds. At the same time, the token in Cui Hongshin's hand emitted a faint green and red light. Like a needle, it pierced toward the brilliance of the surging clouds with incomparable sharpness. Chapter 2300. Rumble. There was a sound in everyone's ears. A crack was torn in the light barrier and Cui Hongshin's figure passed through it. Next was Zhan Minghui. When he passed through, the crack had already healed. However, this healing was like 2 turbulent waves sandwiching Zhan Minghui. Zhan Minghui's face was a little pale. After all, there was a strong spiritual power in this brilliance that had a tendency to tear his body apart. However, just as the light engulfed Zhan Minghui, his token also emitted a faint green and red light. These 2 lights wrapped around his entire body and blocked the surging light. Taking advantage of this moment, Zhan Minghui passed through. Good boy. The means of the Sky Patrol City are really powerful. Even if it's a gold core cultivator or an early nascent soul cultivator, if they come here, I'm afraid they will suffer a great loss. Xiao Hua was the last to pass through the brilliance. He could not help but feel a little speechless. However, thinking about it, it was normal. This was the teleportation array of the Sky Patrol City. Without strict defensive measures, once it was breached by a sword cultivator, the Sky Patrol City would belong to the sword cultivator. After entering the light barrier, there were several large teleportation arrays in front of them. They were similar to the ones Xiaohua had seen before, but the scale was much larger. It could teleport more than 10 people at a time. These teleportation arrays emitted a black and white brilliance from time to time, and groups of Path Sect disciples were teleported out. Could it be that there is no fixed destination? Seeing that his team was randomly assigned to a teleportation array, Xiaohua suddenly realized everyone is teleported to any place without any purpose, and then the team leaders go to the destination according to the instructions in the token. This way, even if a sword cultivator wants to find the purpose of this operation, it is impossible. Could it be that this operation is extremely important? It's your turn. A Sky Patrol City disciple in the late stage of Foundation establishment pointed to the teleportation array that had just been vacated and said to Cui Hongxin and the others. Yes. Cui Hongxin did not say anything and stepped into the teleportation array. After waiting for everyone to enter, Dui Ling could not help but ask, Senior, where does this teleportation array teleport to? Little girl, you will know when you get there. The cultivator smiled faintly and raised the small flag in his hand. A black and white brilliance flashed around Xiaohua and the others, and they disappeared. Next team. The cultivator's expression didn't change as he called out again. Inside the teleportation array, Xiaohua only felt his vision turn gray. That extremely familiar feeling of fainting appeared, but it only lasted for a moment before his eyes lit up again. Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless, and his divine sense immediately swept out.
Oh.
A shocked voice sounded in Xiaohua's ears. At this moment, Xiaohua's divine sense also scanned that person. It was actually a cultivator in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. Greetings, Senior. Xiaohua was slightly startled. He hurriedly withdrew his divine sense, raised his eyebrows, and bowed towards the source of the voice. You are not bad. That voice had already regained its calmness and said faintly. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He could now clearly see that this was a space with a radius of 3 meters. The space was surrounded by craggy stone walls, and there were some icicles and light green moss on the walls. An extremely cold chill instantly wrapped around him. Needless to say, this must be an extremely cold place in the northern part of the country of Xi. Moreover, since it was the other end of the teleportation array of the Sky Patrol City, it must be heavily guarded and even kept secret. If there were no Golden Core realm cultivators guarding it, how could the Sky Patrol City be at ease? He was overthinking. Looking at Cui Hongxin and the others, the few Foundation Establishment realm cultivators were still fine. Their figures were slightly staggering, and they looked like they couldn't stand the distance of a teleportation array. Looking again, the few Qi Refinement realm cultivators were already paralyzed in the teleportation array. That's right, the Sky Patrol City doesn't seem to have given us special yellow talismans for teleportation. Xiaohua suddenly thought. This disciple used to be a body cultivator. Xiaohua understood the Golden Core realm cultivator's meaning. That's right, in a distant teleportation array, without a yellow talisman to coordinate with the teleportation array, how could one resist the changes in space? Xiaohua being able to stand steadily in the teleportation array naturally surprised the cultivator. The Golden Core realm cultivator didn't ask any more questions. He waved his hand and said to the dozens of Qi Refinement realm cultivators beside him, "Quickly go and help them out. There will be another group of cultivators coming soon." Yes. The Qi Refinement realm cultivators quickly came in and helped one person out of the teleportation array. Senior, where is this place? Xiaohua saw that Cui Hongxin and the others were still dispirited and didn't pretend anymore. He cupped his hands and asked, "Where is this place?" You'll know when you get out." The Golden Core realm cultivator laughed. "Your captain token naturally has a map of the route from here to here. As for where this place is, this old man won't tell you. After teleporting you here, this old man will have to move this temporary teleportation point. Telling you the location is meaningless. Yes, this disciple understands. Xiaohua suddenly understood. He looked at the teleportation array again and smiled apologetically. This junior is very curious. This teleportation array, can it be moved? Hee hee, you're really curious? The Golden Core Realm Cultivator laughed. Teleportation arrays are divided into two types, fixed and temporary.
Fixed ones don't need to be said.
As long as it's set up, it can't be moved. This is a temporary teleportation array specially set up for this operation. It's very simple and can only be used for a short period of time. It's also because of this that my Sky Patrol City didn't have time to make so many yellow teleportation talismans, causing you to suffer. At this point, the Golden Core Realm Cultivator said meaningfully, "Little guy, this old man has been in charge of the teleportation array for a long time. You're the first cultivator who can walk out of the teleportation array normally without using a teleportation talisman. I'll leave this group of disciples to you. Although this old man isn't a teacher of the Imperial Thunder Sect, I'll have to remind you again. As the team leader, you must bring them back in one piece. Not a single one can be missing." Yes, this disciple understands. Xiaohua didn't make it clear and replied respectfully, "Don't give up, don't abandon. Don't abandon." Good. The Golden Core Realm Cultivator's eyes flashed with surprise and nodded. The Imperial Thunder Sect is indeed a famous sect in the country of Xi. A Foundation Establishment disciple can speak such profound principles. This old man is truly impressed. Hee hee, senior, this teleportation array. How did it move? And how is it set up? Xiaohua suddenly revealed his true colors. Hee hee, if you were a disciple of my Sky Patrol City, this old man would consider. Unfortunately, you're a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Do you think this old man will tell you? A smile appeared on the Golden Core Realm Cultivator's face. We're all disciples of the Dao Sect. Senior, why do you have to be so formal? Xiaohua was also thick-skinned. Ha ha ha. The Golden Core Realm Cultivator flicked his sleeve and said, "If you want to know, then use your Imperial Thunder Sect's Thunder Escape technique in exchange." TSK. Senior, you're making things difficult for this junior. Xiaohua smiled. How would this junior know about the Thunder Escape technique? Yes, aren't you making things difficult for this old man as well? The Golden Core Realm Cultivator smiled and flicked his sleeve. A yellow talisman appeared in midair and said, "Your disciples have rested. Take this escape talisman and activate your magic power to leave this place." Yes, thank you, senior. Xiaohua took the yellow talisman with a smile. Behind him, Cui Hongshan and the others had rested and were standing there listening to Xiaohua's banter. Xiaohua left an escape talisman for himself and gave the others to Zhan Minghui. When everyone stuck the yellow talismans on their bodies and activated their magic power, their figures involuntarily flew up into the air and flew toward the top of the cave that was covered in frost. After waiting for half a cup of tea's time, the figures of Xiaohua and the others appeared above a barren glacier. Everyone's faces were slightly stunned. Even Xiaohua, when he released his divine sense at this time, could not sense that they had just arrived at the teleportation array here. Soon after, Xiaohua once again unleashed his Buddhist awareness. After scanning the surrounding dozens of kilometers, he discovered that it was completely barren. Other than a few groups of Dao sect disciples who seemed to have just left like them, there were no traces of sword cultivators.
Sigh. What can such a tight defense mean?
Xiaohua sighed. It could only mean that the operation here was secretive and that he had to face many powerful sword cultivators. He was naturally confident, but what about these 9 disciples? Should we also let the 3 Qi refining disciples build their foundation? Xiaohua thinks to himself as his gaze sweeps over the 3 disciples who are still a little dizzy. But when he thinks that once these 3 disciples reach the foundation establishment stage, they will have to return to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Perhaps those 2 disciples from the Heavenly Thunder Palace will also come. Xiaohua shakes his head. Let's wait until the war is almost over before we talk about it again. Zhenhua, how's your rest? Cui Hongshan's head was also a little unwell, as if he had a hangover. Captain Chui, it's really uncomfortable. Zhan He frowned. Patrol Sky City is too stingy. They didn't even give us a single teleportation talisman. Then let's find a place to rest for a while. Chui Hongshan hesitated slightly and ordered. There's no need. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out the flowing cloud-flying boat. He said indifferently, We'll take the flying boat. Aren't you afraid that the 7 Skills Sect disciples will find out? Chui Hongshan asked curiously.
No.
Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Fellow Taoist Chui and senior brother Zhen will control it. Just listen to my command. Okay. Chui Hongshan turned his head and glanced at Zhen Minghui. They all understood what the Golden Core cultivator said next to the teleportation array. If they wanted to live, it was better to listen to Xiao Hua. After boarding the flying boat, Zhen Minghui casually flew slowly to the north. Chui Hongshan took out the captain's token and looked at it with his divine thought. His face showed a look of realization. He glanced at Xiao Hua, who was sitting cross-legged and ignoring him, and handed the token to Zhen Minghui. Oh, I see. After Zhen Minghui looked at it, he nodded and activated his dermic power. The flying boat circled slightly and accelerated towards the northwest. But what about those spiritual herbs? They were born from the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Junior Brother Xiao, you don't have to worry about this. Our Thunder Palace has already made preparations, and even the Thunder Palace has already started planting the spiritual herbs. Zhen Minghui said with a smile. What about the spiritual stone vein? Xiao Hua said again. With a change in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, the spiritual stones can't be regenerated, so wouldn't the original spiritual stones be even scarcer? Junior brothers, have you all participated in the EG of Sentry City? You must have felt something, right? When everyone heard this, their expressions changed greatly. Of course, they had been to the EG, but they were different from Xiao Hua. There weren't many things in their storage bags, so how could they sense it during the exchange? Now that they said it, how could they not know if it was true after thinking about it carefully? In that case, the spiritual stone vein of Spring Gold Mountain is really important. Chui Hongshan thought more. The sword cultivators will most likely attack this place. That's for sure. Xiao Hua sneered. The Golden Core Masters in the conference hall are afraid that the sword cultivators will find these spiritual stone veins if we send reinforcements, but they have no choice but to send reinforcements, so they have no choice but to scatter and act so mysteriously. However, no matter how strict the operation is, there will always be a mistake. We don't know which spiritual stone vein this mistake will happen in, so we can only hope that we won't encounter it. Yes, this was also the scruples of the Golden Core cultivators in the conference hall of Sentry City. Xiao Hua was right. We'll do our best and leave the rest to fate. Chui Hongshan saw that everyone was a little discouraged and hurriedly said, We'll do our best. There's no need to think too much. Yes, we understand. Zhen Hua and the others said in unison. Xiao Hua thought for a moment, clapped his hand, and took out a storage bag. He handed it to Dui Qiming and said, This is what I exchanged at the EG. See if any of the senior brothers or martial nephews have any use for it. Dui Qiming took the storage bag with some doubts. She scanned it with her divine perception and saw that it was a qi replenishing and blood elixir commonly used by qi refinement and foundation establishment. She smiled and said, Junior Brother Xiao is considerate. I thank you on behalf of them. No need to thank me. Xiao Hua waved his hand. I've taken such a big advantage of you. How can I feel at ease if I don't take out something? After saying that, Xiao Hua didn't speak anymore and closed his eyes to adjust his breathing. Under Dui Qiming's arrangement, the others divided the elixir in the storage bag and hid far away from where Xiao Hua was resting. They looked at Xiao Hua with reverence and some envy. Xiao Hua was really too mysterious. The shocking cultivation of Chicken Crow Mountain and the generous amount of elixir he gave out was far from the poor disciple of Myriad Thunder Valley in their hearts. Even Dui Qiming was a little stunned. The elixir in the storage bag was definitely not something that Cui Hongshan could take out. Senior brother Minghui, you rest for a moment and let me steer the boat. Cui Hongshan's heart also felt uncomfortable for no reason. He turned his head and sat next to Zhen Minghui as he instructed in a low voice. Zhen Minghui smiled and said, I just steered the boat and was flying happily. You just wait at the side for a moment. Cui Hongshan didn't answer and placed his hand on the boat. He activated his true origin and fused his magic power into the flying boat. There was a moment of silence on the flying boat. Only the whistling of the cold wind could be heard, and the snowflakes began to drift down from the dark clouds that were as gloomy as winter's day. Suddenly, Xiaohua said in a low voice, Senior brother Zhen, let's lower the flying boat by 10 feet and fly towards the left. Chapter 23:02. This. Zhen Minghui was slightly taken aback. He glanced at Cui Hongshan and didn't understand. Fly west. Cui Hongshan also didn't understand. However, he knew that since Xiaohua had spoken, it was best to listen to him. However, after flying for an hour, Xiaohua said again, All right, let's go higher. Continue to fly northeast. Yes. Zhen Minghui responded and adjusted the direction again. For the next 2 days, there would be a few times every day. Xiaohua would give a few instructions and fly in different directions and at different altitudes. Zhen Minghui and Cui Hongshan were somewhat puzzled at first, but gradually they had some understanding in their hearts. Both of their eyes flashed with astonishment, but this astonishment also brought with it even more joy. Dui Ling couldn't help but blink as he moved closer to Xiaohua and whispered, Xiaohua, you're not making fun of Captain, are you? Flying high one moment and low the next? Could it be that there are some restrictions in the sky? Looking at this female cultivator, who kept calling his name, Xiaohua smiled and said, Why don't the others ask? Are you the only one who wants to ask? Are you fighting for Zhen Minghui? Nope. Dui Ling blinked at him and said, I'm in the same group as you. Why would I fight for them? It's just that I saw that they were having a hard time flying, so I wanted to ask you. We are magnanimous people. There's no need to lower ourselves to their level. Hee, if they don't want to suffer, then get a higher grade flowing cloud flying ship. We just need to put in spirit stones and activate it a little. For this kind of low-grade flying ship, we really need them to put in some effort. Xiaohua said without any trace of politeness. And that's right. They're the captains. If they don't put in some effort, who will? Dui Ling laughed and said, However, let's stop before going too far. We've already taken many detours in these 2 days. Next, let's just fly directly. If we can arrive earlier, then we should. Dui Ling. Dui Qiming berated in a low voice. What do you know? Come back, quickly. How could Dui Qiming not know about Dui Ling's favorable impression of Xiaohua? Although she knew that Xiaohua already had Shui and Huanhua Sek's fairy Hongxia, she still wanted Dui Ling or Ming Mao to get familiar with Xiaohua. No one said that a cultivator could only have one female cultivator on dual days. Since there were 2, what harm was there in having 3? Of course, if Cui Hongshan wanted 2, he could forget about it. Martial uncle. Dui Ling truly wanted to mediate the conflict between Xiaohua and Cui Hongshan out of goodwill. Seeing Dui Qiming berate him, he felt somewhat wronged. I'm afraid there's some danger ahead. That's why junior martial brother Xiao changed the direction of the flying boat. Dui Qiming had no choice but to voice her conjecture as she looked towards Xiaohua. Isn't that so, junior brother Xiao? Maybe it's possible. Xiaohua smiled, but didn't say anything. He closed his eyes again. How could that be? Dui Ling pursed his lips and said, Xiaohua is only at the initial stage of foundation establishment. Although he has a true-blood Dharma body and his strength is comparable to the late stage of foundation establishment, his divine perception can't be more powerful than martial uncle Zhen's, right? Hearing Dui Ling's nagging, Zhen Minghui smiled bitterly. He had already released his divine perception when Xiaohua had first warned him. He had scanned the area in front of him more than once. Although he had looked again and again, He had never seen anything wrong. If he couldn't see anything wrong, then Cui Hongshan definitely couldn't see anything. These few days, he could only let Xiao Hua wander around by the nose. Another 10 days passed. Just like before, Xiao Hua would let Jin Minghui and Cui Hongshan change direction every half a day. After that, no one asked anymore. Even Dui Ling knew that flying like this was already very far from Sky Patrol City. There were already sword cultivator disciples moving around in the vicinity. They hadn't encountered any swordsmen for more than 10 days. If Xiao Hua hadn't been able to see them in advance, what other explanation could there be? Everyone felt even more admiration for Xiao Hua.
It was noon again today.
The miserable sunlight was faintly sprinkled down. The fluttering snowflakes had disappeared, and the entire sky was devoid of life. Xiao Hua was cultivating when he suddenly opened his eyes. What's wrong? Is something the matter? Dui Ling was the most concerned about Xiao Hua and immediately asked anxiously. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes, but the expression in his eyes couldn't be seen. Do we have to change direction again? Zhan Minghui also asked anxiously. The flying boat slowed down. No need. Go straight. Xiao Hua said coldly.
Hmm.
Zhan Minghui nodded and continued to urge the flying boat. To the right. Xiao Hua didn't sit down this time. Instead, he stood at the bow of the boat, placed his hands behind his back, and looked forward. The whistling cold wind blew through the flying boat's defense, blowing Xiao Hua's hair and robe up. A fierce aura was emitted from Xiao Hua's body. Okay. Zhan Minghui agreed, without hesitation. Junior brother Su, you haven't used your fire-controlling fan for a long time, right? Do you want to exercise today? Xiao Hua suddenly spoke, but his eyes weren't looking at them. Oh, yes. Su Qing was obviously caught off guard and hurriedly jumped up from the flying boat. Okay, you all get ready. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeves and said coldly, This Xiao was wrong. Then, Xiao Hua didn't say where he was wrong and just stood there quietly. He really had the demeanor of an expert. They flew straight for nearly an hour. During this time, Xiao Hua actually changed direction again and again, as if he was chasing sword cultivators. Suddenly, Zhan Minghui cried out in alarm. Dui Qiming and the others also discovered it and couldn't help but become nervous like Zhan Minghui. It was no wonder that Dui Qiming and the others saw through their divine senses that there were about 30 swordsmen, all of whom were at the unsheathed sword realm. They were casually flying in their direction on their swords. When Zhan Minghui and Dui Qiming's divine senses swept over these sword cultivators, these swordsmen had already discovered it. The swordsmen were already flying over. Don't be afraid. Back then, Rooster Crow Mountain had 1,000 swordsmen and hundreds of unsheathed swordsmen. Didn't we also fly out safely? Xiao Hua said coldly. These crooked melons and cracked dates are only here to deliver flying swords to us. Pfft. Hearing Xiao Hua call unsheathed swordsmen crooked melons and cracked dates, Ming Mao couldn't help but laugh. She charmingly glanced at Xiao Hua.
Go to the left. Pretend to escape.
Xiao Hua instructed in a low voice. Okay. Zhan Minghui circulated his magic power, and Cui Hongshan also stood up from the flying boat. His divine senses weren't enough to see the swordsman, so he could only walk to Dui Qiming's side. Dui Qiming whispered a few words and Cui Hongshan nodded slightly. He glanced at Xiao Hua and didn't say anything else. In just the time it took for an incense stick to burn, they could already see the 30 sword cultivators whistling over from behind the flying boat. Beneath the feet of these sword cultivators were flying swords that radiated light in all directions. They were all different colors and looked very beautiful. Xiao Hua, can you leave a flying sword for this concubine? Dui Ling suddenly asked.
Why?
Xiao Hua asked curiously. I don't cultivate flying swords. This concubine came here to fight, so I have to leave something as a memento. Dui Ling smiled and said, Otherwise, I will lose face when I return. And I understand. Xiao Hua turned to look at the excited sword cultivators and said, Fly down. Zhen Minghui immediately controlled the flowing cloud-flying boat to rush down the snow-covered hill. Damn it! Why are the disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect so good at pretending? Seeing Zhen Minghui's realistic performance, Xiao Hua was somewhat stunned. It's actually the bastards from the Imperial Thunder Sect. This sword thought they were disciples of the Seven Skills Sect. The one in the lead was a tall swordsman with a black beard on both sides of his face.
Go.
The swordsman formed a sword seal with both hands, and the fiery sword light under his feet split into two with a hu sound. It pierced straight towards Zhen Minghui and Dui Qiming, who were steering the boat. He shouted, "This daddy made the first move, so this daddy wants to have a taste of that beautiful lady first." Hearing this, Cui Hongshan's face instantly changed. It was as if the rock under his feet had been frozen solid for 10,000 years. Go! 2 lightning pearls flew out from Cui Hongshan's hands and nimbly arced through the air, attacking the 2 swordsmen. "Little gigolo, you still dare to make a move?" The swordsman didn't care at all. He slightly changed the direction of one of his flaming swords and stabbed towards the lightning pearl. Gotcha! The 2 lightning pearls collided with each other, and a thumb-sized bolt of lightning struck the flying sword. Crackle! The fiery light of the flying sword and the thunder light dimmed all of a sudden, revealing its fist-thick true body. Kaka, the Imperial Thunder Sect, has long since declined. The swordsman laughed loudly and urged his sword origin. A fiery red sword light came out from the flying sword and hit the lightning pearl that had just flown to the side. With a caw sound, the lightning bead lost control and flew diagonally into the air. Hongshan, Dui Qiming was very anxious. Seeing Cui Hongshan's pale face, she hastily slapped her hand, and the lightning bottle flew out from her storage bag. "What's the hurry?" Xiao Hua coldly said. It was unknown whether he was talking to Dui Qiming or Cui Hongshan. As soon as his voice fell, Xiao Hua's figure suddenly rose from the flying boat and rushed towards the swordsman at an extremely fast speed. Sword Cultivator's flying speed was originally fast, and Xiao Hua was even faster. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Hua flew in front of the flying sword. Haha, another one has come to court death. The swordsman once again controlled his sword, wanting to cut down Xiao Hua under his sword. Unfortunately, although the flying sword was stabbing towards his head, Xiao Hua's figure slightly swayed and easily dodged the flying sword in a situation where it couldn't be avoided. The swordsman was greatly surprised. Sword cultivators had always used this kind of close combat method to deal with cultivators with higher realms. This was the first time he saw a cultivator take the initiative to fight in close combat. Unfortunately, just as he let out a strange cry, Xiao Hua shook his Daoist robe. The swordsman suddenly felt a fierce and almost irresistible force appear out of nowhere and tightly wrap around him. The sword origin around his body completely solidified, and he was simply unable to mobilize it. Not good. The swordsman was greatly alarmed. Just as he was about to open his mouth and spit out a small sword to break this restriction, Xiao Hua waved his hand again. A golden light flashed and cut the swordsman in half from the waist. The 2 halves of the corpse fell from the sky. Chapter 2303. 2 fiery flying swords also fell diagonally along with the corpse. Oh! The 2 swordsmen closest to that swordsman had just activated their flying swords when they unexpectedly saw a swordsman, who had always been a one-hit kill, being killed by an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. They couldn't help but be stunned. They glanced at each other, and each of their flying swords mercilessly stabbed at Xiao Hua from 3 directions. A flying sword like plum blossoms tore apart the joy in the young girl's eyes. A flying sword like the scorching sun nearly ignited the youth of a hot-blooded youth. A flying sword like a cool breeze, gentle like the charm of a fairy's tongue. These 3 swords had already enveloped Xiao Hua's entire body, and the intense sword intent seemed to want to tear apart the fierce wind. Whoosh whoosh, Xiao Hua's figure suddenly moved, leaving behind an afterimage in the air. He had already left the wind of the 3 swords behind him. Like a boorish man who didn't understand romance, He was even more like a gust of wind brushing against willows. His Taoist robe fluttered continuously, and then 3 golden flashes followed. Another 3 corpses fell from the air.
Kill.
Seeing 4 swordsmen killed by Xiaohua as soon as they came face to face, the remaining swordsmen were furious. 20 or so swordsmen simultaneously activated their flying swords and stabbed at Xiaohua. 20 or so flying swords. How could 3 flying swords compare? Just the flashing sword light was enough to dazzle people's eyes. Jie. A sound rang out. Xiaohua's shoulder leaped, and the phoenix Dharma body flew out from his body. The Dharma body, which was nearly 300 meters long, immediately covered the area around Xiaohua. The clear cry of the phoenix resounded through heaven and earth, piercing into the swordsman's ears like a sharp awl. Whoa! Following the cry of the phoenix Dharma body, 2 enormous wings spread out. Lightning as thick as a thumb flashed between the wings. In an instant, the 20 or so flying swords were knocked askew. However, there were still several flying swords that broke through the phoenix Dharma body's defense and stabbed at Xiaohua. Kachacha, the phoenix Dharma body's 2 claws swiftly clawed forward. Lightning as thick as a fist was born again, precisely hitting these flying swords, mercilessly knocking them out of the air. The cultivators who drew their swords used their primordial spirits to control their swords. The phoenix Dharma body repelled all the flying swords, so their primordial spirits were naturally damaged. They also deeply experienced the vast power of lightning above the phoenix Dharma body. They couldn't help but be shocked. But Xiaohua didn't give them any time to be shocked or hesitate. The phoenix celestial body flapped its wings, and the dark clouds in the sky suddenly tumbled like a tidal wave.
Crack.
The phoenix celestial body waved its claws again, and several thick bolts of lightning descended from the sky, striking several sword cultivators at lightning speed. Without a doubt, those sword cultivators were instantly struck down from the clouds. At the same time, Xiaohua wasn't slow either. His figure flew up again, and everywhere he went, he used the heaven and earth sleeve technique, and the soaring dragon scissors followed. He was like a wolf in a flock of sheep, slaughtering the swordsmen one after another. Not only were the sword cultivators stunned, even Cui Hongshin and the others on the flowing cloud-flying ship were stunned. Last time on Chicken Crow Mountain, when Xiaohua showed his invincible might, they were pretty much scared out of their wits. They only thought of running away, so they really didn't observe carefully. Now that they saw Xiaohua actually encounter sword cultivators, he didn't say anything and went all out to kill them. Moreover, his methods were truly swift and fierce. The sword cultivators who drew their swords were simply no match for him. How could they not be shocked? It was still the same sentence. This is a foundation establishment cultivator? Gove, those sword cultivators haven't died yet. Zhen Minghui came to his senses quickly and pointed at the sword cultivators who were struck down by the phoenix Dharma body's lightning drawing technique. Yes. Dui Qiming, Cui Hongshin, and the others responded and flew out, heading toward the sword cultivators who were already beaten up by Xiaohua. Run! Seeing that only a dozen sword cultivators were killed in a short moment, how could the remaining sword cultivators dare to hesitate? They flew in all directions at the same time. Wanna leave? Leave your lives here. Xiaohua said coldly. Just now, when you were feeling good, you didn't think about now. Zhen Minghui, capture those sword cultivators. As he spoke, Xiaohua urged the phoenix Dharma body to send down a few more lightning bolts. He himself flew up again and rushed toward a sword cultivator at an extremely fast speed. The soaring dragon shears slashed at the second sword cultivator. Even so, there were still 5 sword cultivators who escaped from everyone's siege. Xiaohua grabbed the sword cultivator's neck with one hand and looked at the sword cultivator who had already escaped several tens of feet away. He frowned slightly. It wasn't difficult for him to kill these 5 sword cultivators. He really had a lot of methods, but he wasn't willing to reveal them. Humph. You'd better try this. Xiaohua snorted coldly. He exerted strength in his hand and crushed the sword cultivator's throat. Then he patted his hand and took out the soul-absorbing bell and the toad. The soul thread on his forehead also stretched out. Ding dang dang, an extremely ear-piercing sound rang out. The four swordsmen abruptly stopped in midair and then fell down like boulders. As for the swordsman who flew the furthest, his body swayed slightly, and the sword light around him flashed. Then he flew again. Xiao Hua was slightly surprised. His figure flew and directly chased after him. Those sword cultivators who were struck by Xiao Hua's lightning bolts into the air, although they didn't die, their primordial spirits were greatly damaged. They were good targets for Jinhua and the others to practice on. When Xiao Hua killed the last sword cultivator who escaped and returned, Dui Ling and the others had also killed most of the remaining sword cultivators. Xiao Hua landed on the hill. He reached out and grabbed a sword cultivator who was struck down by the soul-absorbing bell. His soul thread then entered the sword cultivator's glabella. Inside the sword cultivator's mind, there was also a mysterious dark cloud. However, that dark cloud was clearly a lot more solid. Its outer layer seemed to be wrapped by something sticky. At this moment, the dark clouds had already been torn apart like cotton, and they were torn apart. It didn't take shape. And sword cultivators are indeed powerful. Otherwise, how would I deal with soul cultivators? Xiao Hua nodded inwardly. He flung his hand, and the sword cultivator's corpse fell to the ground. He stretched out his hand and looked at the thing in his hand that looked like a withered leaf. He thought, just now, that sword cultivator didn't fear my soul-absorbing bell. I'm afraid it was the effect of this thing. Although this thing can create a barrier around the soul, it's indeed very powerful. Could it also be a soul tool? This thing was naturally discovered by Xiao Hua from the sword cultivator's mind that escaped just now. Damn it, this sword cultivator has this thing. Maybe other sword cultivators also have this thing. Xiao Hua was immediately somewhat depressed. He didn't think of this matter. Previously, there were many cultivators' souls that he didn't check. Ka-cha-cha, a few thunderous sounds were heard. It was from Dui Qiming's thunder bottle that flew out and struck a sword cultivator flying. That sword cultivator was originally a second-grade drawing sword cultivator, whose cultivation was higher than Dui Qiming's. However, after being struck by the Phoenix Dharma body's lightning, his sword essence was damaged. He didn't have time to take any medicinal pills. Even the lightning in his body was still entangled with the sword essence, preventing the sword essence from circulating and healing. How could he resist Dui Qiming's thunder bottle? Barely managing to control her sword to balance her body, Su Qing waved her fire-controlling fan. The surrounding spiritual qi of heaven and earth was sucked into the fan. A tongue of fire descended from the sky and trapped her. Chapter 2304. The sword light around the swordsman's body faintly appeared, and he curled up like a hedgehog. Although the flames were fierce, they could hardly break through his defense. Zilala. Another sound that made the swordsman's heart tremble was heard. It was actually Zhenhua's thunder-trapping bead. A seemingly weak lightning covered his head. The swordsman hurriedly raised his hand, and a sword light appeared in his palm, sweeping a large gap in the lightning net. However, the rest of the lightning still fell on the sword light on the swordsman's body. This lightning wasn't very powerful, but when it fell on the sword light, a purple-red color suddenly appeared in the sword light. It was the lightning that was wreaking havoc in the swordsman's body. Under the pincer attack, the sword light suddenly dimmed. Su Qing's flames took advantage of this and immediately ignited the swordsman's entire body. At the same time, the other three swordsmen were easily killed by the combined forces of Cui Hongxin, Zhen Minghui, and the others. At this point, the 30-plus swordsmen were completely annihilated by the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. And 30 drawn swordsmen is this young master's limit. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept over, and he had a plan in his heart. If he didn't reveal his full strength, he would have to protect these 9 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples and not let a single swordsman escape. He could only face 30 drawn swordsmen, and there couldn't be many drawn swordsmen. The chances of 30 drawn swordsmen appearing in the first stage of the battle aren't many, right? Xiao Hua thought to himself. Zhan Hua, Dui Ling, bring the corpses of these swordsmen over. Xiao Hua withdrew his phoenix celestial body and instructed them. Yes. Dui Ling answered crisply, her face full of excitement. Just now, she used lightning strike to smash a drawn swordsman into the ground from midair. This was definitely something she could show off in the future. Apart from Cui Hongxin and Zhen Minghui who didn't move, Dui Qiming, Ming Mao, and the rest of the 7 people all moved. They flew to different places and brought the corpses of the 30-plus swordsmen over. The swordsmen killed by the lightning and fire didn't seem to be much, but the swordsmen killed by the soaring dragon shears were very miserable and bloody. Dui Qiming and the other 2 female cultivators couldn't bear it. Even Cui Hongxin frowned slightly. Xiao Hua saw this and didn't say anything. He only said, burn their corpses and take out everything from their storage pouches. Everyone can choose a flying sword. If there are any pills, spirit herbs, spirit stones, and other items from my Dao sect in the storage bag, please distribute them to everyone. As for the rest, I will keep them. Xiao Hua's words were somewhat overbearing, but no one had any objections. Captain Cui, why are there so many pills and spirit stones in the storage bags of these swordsmen? Qiu Su was the first to realize that something was wrong and hurriedly shouted. Isn't it obvious? I wonder how many Dao sect disciples have died at their hands. Cui Hongxin's brows relaxed when he saw these items. You're exaggerating. Xiao Hua didn't think too much about it. Seeing so many things come out of the swordsman's storage pouch, he was also shocked. He couldn't help but feel regret. Fortunately, Dui Qiming was extremely tactful. She gathered everything into a few storage pouches and only took half of the medicinal pills, spirit herbs, and spirit stones. She didn't take any of the magic tools or treasures and left them all in the storage pouches. She then brought a few more storage pouches to Xiao Hua and said with a smile, Junior brother Xiao, these swordsmen were all killed by you, so it's fine for us to take a little advantage of you. You should take these. Seeing Dui Qiming like this, Xiao Hua felt embarrassed. He took the storage pouches and took out the pills and spirit herbs. Then, he took out the 30 flying swords and said with a smile, Dui Ling said it just now, and this Xiao also agreed. Everyone will get a flying sword. No one can't take it. Otherwise, this Xiao won't have any face. Dui Ling was very happy and almost jumped up. However, she wasn't in a hurry to be the first to choose. Instead, she looked at Cui Hongxin and Zhen Minghui. Cui Hongxin also liked these flying swords, but when he saw Xiao Hua's smile, he still felt unhappy. He hesitated in his heart. This Shen's thoughts are the same as Dui Ling's. Moreover, these are the flying swords of the drawing swordsmen. They're no small matter. If we don't take them now, when will we? Captain Cui, this Shen will pick first. As he spoke, Zhen Minghui's divine sense swept over and picked up a flying sword that was 3 inches long. There were faint flames rising from the inside of the sword, and he held it in his hand happily. Although Xiao Hua directly called out his name just now, he didn't seem to feel that it was inappropriate. This Su won't be polite either. Su Qing went forward with a smile and also picked a sword. Xiao Hua looked, and his heart moved. His divine sense swept over the storage pouches, and he picked up a few sword slips to check. Soon after, Ming Mao and the others also picked up a sword each. In the end, only Cui Hongxin and Dui Qiming didn't have a choice among the Foundation establishment cultivators. Seeing Dui Ling and the other 2 aura, refining disciples' eager expressions and Cui Hongxin's hesitant expression, Dui Qiming sighed. She took a step forward and said with a smile, Hongxin, I want 2 flying swords. You don't pick. And Cui Hongxin's heart lightened and he pretended to be indifferent as he responded. Just as Dui Qiming was about to randomly pick two flying swords, her figure paused for a moment, and her gaze fell on two unremarkable flying swords at the edge of the room. With a wave of her hand, two similar-looking flying swords fell into her hands. "Io, martial uncle, these two flying swords are so ugly," Dui Ling complained. "I'm afraid they're the worst among these flying swords, right?" Dui Qiming smiled and said, "That's not necessarily true. Maybe these flying swords are used by those third-grade swordsmen." As she spoke, her gaze swept over Xiao Hua, who had just transmitted a message to her, as if nothing had happened. Soon after, Dui Qiming, Jinhua, and Baisu Gu each picked a flying sword that they liked. As for these magic tools, each person can also take two. Xiao Hua received the flying swords and waved his hand, taking out about 20 magic tools. "Haha, that's great, that's great." Dui Ling and Zhanhua clapped their hands and each chose two magic tools of slightly lower quality, without hesitation. Seeing Xiao Hua's generosity, everyone was happy and didn't hold back. Dui Qiming still chose 4 magic tools and put them into her storage bag. "And bring your flying swords over." After giving them some trivial things that Xiao Hua didn't care about, Xiao Hua finally said, "These flying swords still have the primordial spirits of sword cultivators. I'm afraid they can't be used. This Xiao will help you erase them." "Okay." Dui Ling didn't understand these things. When he heard Xiao Hua mention it, he was naturally the first to agree and took out the flying sword that had a faint plum blossom on it. Xiao Hua took the flying sword and a green and red sword light flashed from his hand, wiping it on the flying sword. The sword light of the flying sword instantly dimmed, and even the faint plum blossom from before had disappeared. This, Dui Ling saw the unsightly appearance of the flying sword and pouted. "Hee, don't be unsatisfied." Xiao Hua smiled and stuffed the flying sword into his hand. "There's a sword cultivator's primordial spirit inside the flying sword. Be careful, he might take over your body. You keep that sword cultivator in your storage bag every day. Aren't you afraid?" Yes. Dui Ling came to his senses and became happy again. After Xiao Hua erased all the primordial spirits of the flying swords, he instructed, "Senior brother Zhen, let's get on the ship. Let's go in the same direction as before." "Yes." Zhen Minghui set up the flying boat. Everyone boarded the flying boat and flew in the direction they came from. Xiao Hua still sat in a corner of the flowing cloud flying boat. The other disciples were a little far from him. They gathered at the side and took out their own flying swords, gesturing nonstop and showing off their own gazes. Xiao Hua was very happy in his heart. He clapped his hands, and the palm-sized withered leaf appeared in his hand. Then he took out a sword slip. This sword slip was taken from the swordsman's storage pouch. Xiao Hua looked at it for a moment and frowned. This withered leaf was called a spirit armor, and the method to control it was mainly based on sword energy and primordial spirit. However, Xiao Hua clearly felt that this item should be a soul item. Using sword energy to control it was probably the same as using the Dao Sex method to cultivate the soul technique. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua put away the sword slip and released the soul strand. When the soul strand touched the withered leaf immediately emitted a faint green light and gradually became smaller.
Great.
Xiao Hua was secretly happy. He put away the soul strand, and the green light turned into the size of a mung bean. It flew into his transcendence eye, and then followed the soul strand to the side of the mysterious dark cloud. Cui Hongshan and the others naturally saw the green light and saw it fly into Xiao Hua's glabella. Chapter 23:05. Haha, as expected. Xiao Hua was overjoyed when he saw the armor protecting his soul. He kept the soul strand and opened his eyes. We're almost there, Xiao Hua said in his heart as he released his Buddhist awareness. After another cup of tea, Xiao Hua instructed, "Senior brother Zhen, stop the flying boat." "Okay." Zhen Minghui stopped the flying boat and listened to Xiao Hua's instructions. "Everyone, look over there." Xiaohua sighed and pointed to the right side of the flying boat. It was a valley between the mountains.
Oh,
Cui Hongshen and the others were puzzled. When they stood up and looked down, their faces were filled with shock. Especially Dui Ling, Jinhua, and the other Qi refinement disciples. Their eyes flashed with panic and anger. That's right, in the valley, on top of the pure white snow, there were dozens of Dao sect cultivators' corpses, staining the pure white snow with blood. These corpses were in a mess, too horrible to look at. In particular, there were several female cultivators, all naked. Their Taoist robes had long been torn into countless pieces. Senior Sister Dui, take Ming Mao and Dui Ling, and bury the corpses of the female disciples. Xiaohua ordered with his eyes closed. Yes. Dui Qiming suppressed the grief in her heart and waved her hand, taking Ming Mao and Dui Ling with her. After a long while, the three female cultivators flew back with tears in their eyes. Their eyes were filled with anger. Sai, this is the great battle of Dao cultivators. Anything can happen. Xiaohua sighed slightly. Previously, I only wanted to avoid these sword cultivators, but I forgot about their brutality. They fed their swords with their bodies. Although they were upright, they were also ruthless. Killing is the best way to deal with each other's enmity. Only now did everyone know why Xiaohua had his eyes on the 30 or so swordsmen who drew their swords and wanted to kill them all. It turned out that he had already seen the tragic situation here. Without waiting for Xiaohua's order, Cui Hongshen flicked his sleeves and said, Su Qing, you and the others go and clean up the other corpses. Yes. Su Qing and the others gritted their teeth and flew out, gathering the remaining corpses and burying them. What about the tokens and other items of those disciples? When Su Qing and the others returned, Dui Qiming clapped his hands and took out the token that was scattered on the snow and casually thrown away by the sword cultivator. Leave it all to me. Cui Hongshen sighed and said, they should be the three teams from Cool Breeze Valley, Mo Sang Mountain, and Thousand Leaf Ridge. I wonder if they have the same mission as us. It's also a merit for us to bring the tokens back to Sky Patrol City. Where are their storage pouches? Xiaohua asked in grief and indignation. Cui Hongshen shook his head. That's a different story. It belongs to whoever takes it. And Xiaohua clapped his hands and took out a few more tokens. There were even 3 captain tokens. Cui Hongshen also dejectedly put them away. As the flying boat took off again, everyone was silent. Obviously, their previous joy was defeated by the cruelty of reality, and Xiaohua no longer pointed out the direction of the flying boat. Another few days passed. These few days were not easy. Just like the frequency of Xiaohua's reminders, they would encounter more or less sword cultivators every half a day. However, with Xiaohua, a cultivator who concealed his cultivation and still had the strength of an early-stage golden core cultivator, the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect was not in danger at all. Most of the time, Xiaohua did not even make a move and only let them fight on their own. Blood and hatred were often the driving force for cultivation advancement. In just a few days, the 9 people's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds, and even in terms of cooperation, they had become more perfect. Seeing this, Xiaohua could not help but sigh. It's not unreasonable for sword cultivators to start a war. After fighting for several years, not only will their swordsmanship improve greatly, but their realm will also definitely break through. Compared to experience, it's really effective. On this day, on the flying boat, Dui Ling, Baisugu, and Zhenhua had sword wounds on their arms that had not yet healed. They were asking Dui Qiming and Qiu Su about their doubts about cultivation when they heard Xiaohua, who had been silent all this time, say, Senior Brother Minghui, there's another strange enemy on the right in front. Moreover, it seems to be a fellow Taoist from the Dao sect. Stop in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. We'll fly over.
yes.
Zhen Minghui did not hesitate to change the direction of the flying boat and fly over. Xiaohua closed his eyes again. After the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Zhen Minghui stopped the flying boat as instructed. Xiaohua put away the flying boat, and everyone flew forward under Cui Hongshen's lead.
Quick.
Xiao Hua urged. He changed his habit of always flying at the back and took the lead to fly forward. Everyone knew that the situation was urgent, and they all urged their magic power to follow behind Xiao Hua. However, before they could fly too far, Xiao Hua's figure had already flown far away, gradually disappearing from their sight. Seeing this, Cui Hongshan could not help but sigh in his heart. In his mind, he actually recalled the helpless exhortation from earlier on Sky Thunder Peak. This, who's protecting who? But, quick. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said, "There must be sword cultivators fighting fiercely, with our Dao sect disciples in front. We can't fall behind." However, when Cui Hongshan rushed to the scene, Xiao Hua was not in their field of vision. Even when Cui Hongshan released his divine sense, he could not find any trace of Xiao Hua. The scene was extremely dangerous. There were 10 disciples, as many as the first team of the Imperial Thunder Sect, but they were wearing the Tai Ching sect's uniform. They were surrounded by more than 10 strange swordsmen. These swordsmen were divided into 2 groups. One group was abnormally tall, and their bodies emitted a strange brilliance. That brilliance was linked to the magic tools they held in midair. The other group only had 3 swordsmen. These 3 swordsmen were even more strange. They had their backs to Cui Hongshan and the others, so Cui Hongshan and the others could not see their faces clearly. However, their flight was very strange. When they flew, their hands were spread open like wings. They did not use magic tools or magic treasures and only charged at the Tai Ching sect disciples. Every time they flew, the Tai Ching sect disciples' magic tools would be knocked away, forcing them to retreat quickly. "Fellow Taoist from the Imperial Thunder Sect, come and help me." Before Cui Hongshan could take a closer look, a Tai Ching sect disciple at the peak of the early stage of Foundation establishment said happily, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. We'll come over right now." Cui Hongshan responded and quickly analyzed the situation. He then directed Zhen Minghui, Dui Qiming, and the others to fly to different Tai Ching sect disciples to help. "Jie," a scream that caused the blood and qi of all the cultivators present to surge rang out. The strange swordsmen with their backs to Cui Hongshan and the others turned around. Although Cui Hongshan and the others were prepared, their hearts still trembled and they were greatly shocked. Chapter 2306. The bodies of these 3 swordsmen were extremely thin and shriveled. Moreover, their skeleton-like faces were extremely prominent. Their mouths and noses were pointed forward, like the beaks of birds. Their eyes were withered and yellow, and their gazes were sharp and ferocious when they looked back. Bird cultivator. Cui Hongshan and the others immediately understood that this was the bird cultivator they had been warned to be careful of several times in the encampment of the Imperial Thunder Sect in Sky Patrol City. Whoosh, the bird cultivator, who was attacking the early stage Foundation establishment cultivator, clapped his hands. Cui Hongshan saw that his hands under his Taoist robe were extremely thin and long, and they actually emitted a sharp cold light. Faintly, some yellow feathers were emitted from his Taoist robe. As the bird cultivator waved his hands, a powerful wave of air surged out. The bird cultivator's body flew out in a strange manner, drawing an arc in the air as he charged into Cui Hongshan's defensive range. Go! Cui Hongshan had already taken out his Thunder Pearl. Following the activation of Cui Hongshan's Dharma power, he attacked in front of the bird cultivator. However, how could the Thunder Pearl compare to the bird cultivator's agility? When one of the Thunder Pearls flew in front of the bird cultivator only waved his left hand slightly. His entire body was like a bat flying sideways. The Thunder Pearl slid down the bird cultivator's back, and the bird cultivator's hand was already in front of Cui Hongshan's forehead. Hiss, this was the second time Cui Hongshan had seen such fast flying. He was shocked, and at the same time, he sucked in a breath of cold air. All the hair on his body stood on end. He waved his hands naturally, and almost reflexively, he cast a defensive spell. However, how could such a hurried spell block the bird cultivator's fierce attack? Before the spiritual chi of heaven and earth could condense, it was shattered by the bird cultivator. Cui Hongshan could almost hear the sound of the wind piercing the air between the bird cultivator's claws. The sharp, cold light was reflected in Cui Hongshan's eyes. The situation was too urgent. Naturally, the early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator, who was originally entangled by the bird cultivator, also hurriedly activated the green ring-shaped magic weapon to smash the bird cultivator's back. However, it was clear that the bird cultivator didn't care about the green hoop at all. He didn't defend himself at all, and Cui Hongshan, who was willing to be injured in order to help, died under his claws. Something strange happened. Just as Cui Hongshan was about to hurriedly throw out the other 2 thunder pearls, the bird cultivator suddenly screamed. His Taoist robe straightened, as if the feathers under his Taoist robe were standing up. His 2 sharp claws didn't care about hurting Cui Hongshan. Instead, he turned around to protect his head. His orange eyes flashed with panic. Fight! When Cui Hongshan saw this, the other 2 lightning beads flew out and took the opportunity to collide with each other. A flash of lightning instantly appeared, and the thumb-sized lightning struck the beast cultivator. Crackle! Blue lightning instantly enveloped the bird cultivator. At the same time, the Tai Ching sect cultivator's green ring also struck down. Pooh! A dull sound rang out, and an earthy yellow light appeared on the bird cultivator's back. The bird cultivator was instantly knocked down by several dozen feet. However, a yellow light flashed across the bird cultivator's face. He spread his wings and was about to fly again. This bird cultivator is too powerful, right? Cui Hongshan was very surprised. He was confident that he wouldn't be able to take a hit from the green ring, let alone the lightning from the thunder pearl. Fight! At this moment, Chiu Su, who was also in the early stage of Foundation establishment, finally threw out his own magic tool, Thunder Net. However, the timing of Chiu Su's Thunder Net was just right. It landed on the bird cultivator's body when he spread his wings, trapping the bird cultivator in an instant. Good. The Tai Ching sect cultivator almost clapped his hands and hurriedly circulated all the magic power in his body. The green ring flashed with an intense green light and suddenly enlarged, producing an extremely strong confining force that enveloped the bird cultivator. Then, it trapped the bird cultivator from top to bottom. Following that, it rapidly shrank, tightly and firmly trapped the bird cultivator. Dui Ling, Cui Hongshan was overjoyed when he saw this. He hurriedly called out to Dui Ling, who had a thunder seal in her hand, wanting her to use her thunder seal to attack. However, Dui Ling was a few dozen feet away, urging her thunder seal to attack the magic tool with the wavering blue light. How could she have the time to help them? Watch this, Xiao. Right at this moment, Xiao Hua's voice resounded. Cui Hongshan turned around and saw Xiao Hua leisurely flying over from the direction they came from. The cloud suppression seal, which hadn't appeared for a long time, was already in the air. Ah! Xiao Hua? The Tai Ching sect cultivator saw this, and his face showed a pleasantly surprised expression. He even called out Xiao Hua's name. Hee, fellow Taoist, we meet again. Xiao Hua said with a smile. This Tai Ching sect cultivator was none other than He Fong Yuan, who was forced to Foundation establishment by Xiao Hua during the Feather Immortal Assembly. Junior brother Xiao, quickly come and help me. Seeing that Xiao Hua's cloud suppression seal was actually 10 feet in size and overflowing with an earthen yellow brilliance, as well as the heaven and earth spiritual energy that had formed a jade necklace, He Fong Yuan shouted in joy. Go! Xiao Hua chanted an incantation and pointed his finger. The cloud-suppressing seal rumbled with a deafening sound as it smashed towards the bird cultivator. The cloud suppression seal flew dozens of feet above the bird cultivator's head, and that powerful sealing force trapped the bird cultivator. The bird cultivator was already unable to break free from the green rings and lightning net, and now he couldn't move at all. His entire body was flattened, as if it was flat. Boom! The cloud suppression seal landed and smashed the bird cultivator into the ground without any suspense. When the cloud suppression seal was pulled out again, 2 lumps of mangled flesh and blood could be seen on the sunken ground. On top of it was a small lump of colorful feathers. It was the corpse of a spirit bird, and below it was an ordinary human corpse. Great! He Fong Yuan said in joy. To think that junior brother Zhao's treasure would have such power now. I am truly envious. Fellow Taoist he, you must be joking. Xiao Hua pointed his finger, and the cloud suppression seal flew into the air and shrunk slightly, protecting him. He smiled. This treasure's power is not bad, but its speed is too slow. If this bird cultivator wasn't trapped by fellow Taoist I wouldn't have been able to kill him with the cloud suppression seal. With every advantage, there is always a disadvantage. Why is junior brother Xiao so obsessed with perfection? He Feng Yuan's divine sense swept over the other disciples, and he knew that with the support of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples, he had completely reversed the previous situation, so he stopped and said to Xiao Hua with a smile, "Moreover, this magic treasure seems to have been repaired by junior brother Xiao, and its power is even more powerful. Is there anything junior brother Xiao is not satisfied with?" Saying this, He Feng Yuan seemed to have thought of something and blinked. However, according to what I know, Changbai sect seems to have an even more famous overturned sea seal than this cloud suppression seal. Its power is even greater, and its flying speed is even faster. It fits junior brother Zhao's expectations.
Oh.
Overturned sea seal? Xiao Hua shook his head. I don't seem to have heard of it. Yes, it has been a long time since I last saw it. I heard it was lost, but Changbai sect doesn't admit it. However, we are all sects of Meng country. How can we not know? Even I know. How can others not know? Changbai sect is only deceiving themselves. He Feng Yuan explained, but soon after, he felt that it was inappropriate and hurriedly said, "Oh, junior brother Xiao, I did not mean to mock you, you should know." Haha. No worries. Xiao Hua waved his hand. Senior brother you should quickly look at the other disciples. The current situation is not that easy to deal with. Yes, I understand. He Feng Yuan cupped his fists. Junior brother Xiao, please lend me a hand. This artifact cultivator and bird cultivator are quite strange. They are different from the records in the sect. If not for the cloud suppression seal and lightning seal, these treasures, it would not be easy to kill them. I understand. Xiao Hua glanced at Cui Hongshan, who had already left him and joined another group, and nodded. Dui Qimeng was facing an artifact cultivator. That artifact cultivator's body was emitting an orange light and was connected to a huge fireball in the air. That fireball's brilliance was extremely dazzling, and outside of the brilliance, there was a foot-long flame burning fiercely. This artifact cultivator's original opponent was a Tai Ching sect disciple who was wielding a sharp hook artifact. That sharp hook was an extremely fierce artifact, but under the attack of the fire bead, there was a faint red flame burning on it, and the hook was actually somewhat distorted. Even that Tai Ching sect disciple felt an indescribable anxiety in his heart. Dui Qimeng took out the lightning bottle, and from the bottle's mouth, purple lightning poured down like rain, instantly suppressing the destruction of the fire bead. Not only was the flame restrained by the orange brilliance, but the light around the artifact cultivator's body also dimmed by more than 40%. The artifact cultivator's entire body was connected to the artifact. The fire bead artifact cultivator's eyes were different from the bird cultivator's. They were scarlet red like a pillar of fire in the air, and the cold laughter coming from his mouth also had the feeling of friction between artifacts. As the fire pearl cultivator sneered, a pillar of fire appeared from his body. With a wung sound, the pillar of fire rushed toward the fire pearl in the air. Woo-woo, the fire bead made a woo-woo sound inside the pillar of fire, and its color gradually changed from orange to green. What made Dui Qimeng and the Tai Ching sect disciple feel even more uneasy was that along with the change in color, the shape of the fire bead also changed. It actually began to gradually expand, and then it became illusory. Attack! Dui Qimeng didn't dare to hesitate any longer and once again used her magic power. A layer of lightning fell down and covered the fire bead. Similarly, The Tai Ching sect disciple used his magic power, and the sharp hook drew a snow-white light in the air and directly fell into the pillar of fire. GG, an ear-piercing cry came from the fire bead, and within the lightning, the pillar of fire evolved into a fire bird. It flapped its wings extremely vividly, and dozens of fire arrows shot out from the firebird's wings, riddling the pillar of lightning with thousands of holes. Moreover, at the same time the firebird flapped its wings, its green beak rapidly pecked at the hook.
Ah!
With a scream, the Tai Ching sect disciple's face was already pale. He formed a hand seal, and the hook flew back from the firebird's beak, and a pinky-sized hole appeared on the hook. Chapter 2307. Seeing that the equipment cultivator was so powerful, Dui Chi-Meng's heart trembled. She once again circulated her magic power, but this time, she changed her hand seal. Absorb, Dui Chi-Meng shouted, and another lightning net was thrown down. The lightning net flowed within, and the lightning bottle produced a strong suction force. The flames around the firebird were sucked up and slowly entered the bottle. The fire pearl equipment cultivator was slightly stunned. At this time, the fire pillars around him were gradually extinguished, leaving only an orange flame connected to the firebird. The suction force of the lightning bottle was quite strong, and the fire between the equipment cultivator and the firebird was showing signs of being stirred up. The fire pearl equipment cultivator roared again, and a whirlwind appeared around him, as if he was circulating the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At this time, 4 lightning pearls fell from the sky, landing in front of and behind him. They were Cui Hongshan's 4 lightning pearls. The 4 lightning pearls flew in front of and behind the equipment cultivator, rapidly colliding with each other. 2 streaks of lightning appeared at the equipment cultivator's face and the back of his head at the same time. The fire pearl equipment cultivator clearly did not care. He raised a hand that was flickering with flames, blocking his face. As for the lightning behind his head, he simply ignored it. Kacha! The lightning in front of his face was blocked by the equipment cultivator. However, the equipment cultivator had clearly underestimated the lightning from the lightning pearls. This lightning was much stronger than the lightning from Dui Chi-Meng's lightning bottle. This lightning actually passed through the gap between the equipment cultivator's fingers and hit the front of his face. Just this lightning alone was naturally only able to injure one of the equipment cultivator's hands. It was extremely difficult for it to injure his vitals. However, at this time, the lightning behind the equipment cultivators had also struck. Between these 2 lightning bolts, a faint purple lightning bolt suddenly appeared. This lightning was extremely thin, almost as thin as a strand of hair. However, its power was extremely strong, and it directly pierced through the equipment cultivator's head. A crack that was invisible to the naked eye appeared between the weapon cultivator's eyebrows. GG. At this time, the firebird also let out a miserable cry, and a similar crack appeared on its forehead. Great! Dui Chi-Meng was delighted and took the opportunity to circulate her magic power, increasing the suction force by 30%. The firebird finally couldn't hold on any longer. With a wail, it fell into the lightning bottle. Dui Chi-Meng didn't hesitate to summon the lightning bottle back to her when she saw the firebird fall into the bottle. At this moment, the lightning bottle suddenly expanded, and some red light appeared. Inside the thunder bottle's mouth, a brilliant flame was born. It was precisely the brilliance of the connection between the firebird and the tool cultivator. The thunder bottle actually swayed, and was about to fly in the direction of the beast cultivator. Fight! Cui Hongshan scolded again, and the 4 lightning pearls drew 4 strange arcs in the air and collided with each other again. 2 bolts of lightning were produced once again. Simultaneously, one from the front and one from the back, they struck towards the weapon cultivator. At this moment, the flames on his body had already been extinguished, revealing his normal body. Roar! The weapon cultivator panicked. How would he dare to let the lightning strike him again? He flew towards Dui Chi-Meng and spat out another stream of Samadhi true fire. Withdraw! Seeing this, Dui Chimeng used her flying technique to avoid the weapon cultivator. At the same time, she used all her strength to activate her magic power. She clapped her hands, completely ignoring the changes in the lightning bottle. She wanted to snatch the lightning bottle from the weapon cultivator and keep it in her storage bag. The lightning pearls were extremely fast. When they collided, lightning flashed. The weapon cultivator was helpless. He could only turn his head and spit out his Samadhi true fire at one of the bolts of lightning, drowning it. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Dui Chimeng suddenly activated her quintessential essence. The lightning bottle disappeared from her hand and was kept in her storage bag. She looked at the weapon cultivator with the fire pearls. As the firebird was kept, the brilliance on his body dimmed, and his eyes were filled with panic. Kachacha. The lightning behind the equipment cultivator struck him.
Ah!
The weapon cultivator screamed and fell. A thumb-sized wound appeared on his back. Great! Seeing this, Cui Hongshan was overjoyed. He knew that after the weapon cultivator's artifact was taken away, his defense would be greatly reduced. Although his lightning pearls couldn't cause a fist-sized wound, it was still effective. Immediately after, he activated the lightning pearls that Tai Ching sect disciple could naturally see this. He endured the damage to his artifact and also activated his hook to help Cui Hongshan. Damn it, this Cui Hongshan actually knows the principle of lightning splitting yin and yang. Under the protection of the cloud-suppressing seal, Xiaohua was able to clearly see what Cui Hongshan was doing. Inside his phoenix celestial body, the male and female lightning beast's inner cores were precisely relying on the yin and yang attributes of the two inner cores to produce lightning and use the lightning attracting technique. Naturally, he was very sensitive to Cui Hongshan's two lightning bolts just now. This guy's two lightning beast's inner cores are still inside this young master's space. He probably doesn't know, right? However, seeing him like this young master is still unhappy. Let's talk about it when there's a chance in the future. Eldest senior brother used the lightning beast cores to give birth to Xiang Zhili. Who will this guy and Dui Chimeng give birth to? Right now, it's a sword battle. Don't play any tricks. Xiao Hua's gaze was pensive. He looked at Cui Hongshan and then at Dui Chimeng. It was quite thought-provoking. There was no need to talk about the remaining battle groups. With the assistance of the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, especially with Xiao Hua's cloud-suppressing seal, the fate of these tool and beast cultivators had already been decided. In just an hour, 6 tool cultivators and 3 beast cultivators were killed by the combined forces of Tai Ching sect and Imperial Thunder Sect disciples. Tai Ching sect was a famous sect in the country of Meng. Its status was higher than Imperial Thunder sect in the country of Xi. However, at this time, the disciples of the two sects had gone through trials and tribulations together. Their bodies had scars left behind by their enemies, and their hands were also stained with the blood of their enemies. Not to mention that the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples had come to save Tai Ching sect disciples. Moreover, the leader of this Tai Ching sect team was an old friend of an initial stage foundation establishment disciple from Imperial Thunder Sect. Seeing his remaining 7 disciples take out Tai Ching sect's medicinal pills and affectionately hand them to the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples, He Fong Yuan sighed and flew to Cui Hongshan. He bowed and said, I Tai Ching sect's He Fong Yuan thanks fellow Taoist for saving my life. I am Xiao Hua's old acquaintance. I have yet to ask for fellow Taoist's name. After He Fong Yuan escaped danger, he chatted with Xiao Hua for a while. However, at that time, Cui Hongshan had already gone to assist Dui Chimeng, and Xiao Hua avoided talking about Cui Hongshan's matters. Even now, He Fong Yuan still didn't know Cui Hongshan's name. Although Cui Hongshan was somewhat dissatisfied, Xiao Hua's strength was obvious. If it weren't for Xiao Hua, honestly speaking, he might not have dared to accept the challenge. Now that he heard He Fong Yuan's courteous bow, and the other party was at the peak of initial stage foundation establishment, how could he dare to slight him? He hurriedly returned the greeting and said, I, Cui Hongshan, am a disciple of Myriad Thunder Valley with Xiaohua. I am not talented, but I am the leader of my Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. This is also a coincidence. I just happened to pass by this place. It seems we are fated to meet fellow Taoist he. Chapter 2308. Indeed, indeed. He Fong Yuan glanced at Xiaohua and smiled. Back then, I met Dao friend Xiaohua at the Feather Immortal Assembly. To think that in the Sword Path battle in Patrol Heaven City, I was saved by Lightning Imperial Sect's disciple, and this leader is even Dao friend Zhao's junior brother. It's senior brother. Cui Hongshan reminded in a low voice. Senior brother? Oh. He Fong Yuan was slightly dazed as he glanced at Xiaohua. Xiaohua acted as if he did not hear him at all. He was slightly surprised. He clearly felt that Xiaohua's magic power surpassed Cui Hongshan's. Moreover, if Cui Hongshan was Xiaohua's senior brother, Xiaohua would have introduced him. Since Xiaohua did not introduce him, he naturally thought Cui Hongshan was Xiaohua's junior brother. However, He Fong Yuan only thought for a moment before smiling. In short, I am really fated to meet Imperial Thunder Sect. Unfortunately, I still came too late. Cui Hongshan saw several Taiqing sect disciples cleaning up the corpses on the ground and knew they were Taiqing sect's disciples who died, so he comforted them. Sigh, if you did not come, my Taiqing sect would have been completely wiped out. He Fong Yuan smiled bitterly before looking into the distance and frowning. Actually, if not for that strange maze cultivator, even if you came to help, I'm afraid. Oh, why do you say that? Zhen Minghui and the others took the pills, and also came forward to greet He Fong Yuan. After Cui Hongshan finished with them, Zhen Minghui asked curiously. Of course, when he asked, he inadvertently glanced at Xiaohua. It's quite strange. He Fong Yuan was still puzzled. Just before Cui and the rest arrived, about 15 minutes later, a cultivator who was bewitched came. Can you look at the corpses of those two artifact cultivators? Is there a sword mark on their foreheads? Saying so, He Fong Yuan pointed in the distance. There were two corpses that were a head taller than the two artifact cultivators that Cui Hongshan and the others dealt with. Zhen Minghui's divine sense swept over them, and his eyes flashed with shock as he nodded. That's right. The skin and bones of these artifact cultivators are extremely hard. Even magic treasures cannot penetrate them. Sword marks? Could it be the work of a sword cultivator? Sword cultivator? How is that possible? He Fong Yuan laughed. If a sword cultivator appeared here, how could we still be alive? It was impossible for a sword cultivator to kill a weapon cultivator. This is probably the work of a senior from the Changbai sect, right? Senior He, what is going on? Please explain clearly. Dui Ling was greatly surprised and hurriedly asked. These two artifact cultivators are the most powerful of the dozen or so. He Fong Yuan said with lingering fear on his face. When my clavicle hit them, it was no different from hitting a magic treasure. It could not injure them at all. And their magical weapons are even more powerful. They should have the attack power of the peak of the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. We just fought with them, and 3 of our disciples were killed by these 2 weapon cultivators. I don't dare to let them fight with the other disciples, so I can only face them myself. Just as I was about to take out my clavicle, the artifact cultivator's magic treasure sent my clavicle flying. It looked like I was about to die at the hands of that artifact cultivator. A green and red sword light appeared in front of the artifact cultivator's eyes. I saw it very clearly. That weapon cultivator only lasted for 2 rounds and was not a match for that fast and sharp flying sword at all. In the 3rd round, the flying sword pierced through the space between his eyebrows, and he fell to the ground. Only now did that senior Miho's figure appear 100 feet away. He Fong Yuan said with envy. Next, that green and red flying sword did not stop at all. It flew towards another extremely powerful artifact cultivator. That artifact cultivator was even more powerful than before. His entire body was covered in green light and was as hard as his magic treasure. Moreover, this artifact cultivator's flying speed was also extremely fast. I'm afraid it was even faster than Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Either way, his magic tool couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. But no matter how powerful this artifact cultivator was, he was no match for the Changbai Sect Senior. In just 5 rounds, really, just 5 to 6 rounds, that green and red flying sword strangely pierced through the back of the artifact cultivator's head. And that artifact cultivator's magic treasure did not even touch that senior's. But that senior is also strange. He only killed these 2 artifact cultivators and did not wait for my thanks. He did not even care about our lives and flew away in another direction. Feng Yuan laughed. I was still puzzled earlier, but now I know. That senior must have seen Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples and knew that we could kill the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator. Thus, he killed the leader and left the rest of the swordsmen for us. Green and red flying sword? Cui Hongshin and the others were shocked as they thought to themselves, isn't it a golden brilliance?
What?
Have you seen this Changbai Sect Senior before? Feng Yuan observed their expressions and asked curiously. No, we don't have that fortune. How could we see this Changbai Sect Senior? Cui Hongshin emphasized the words Changbai Sect. That's true. If any senior doesn't want us to know his identity, we naturally won't know. Feng Yuan nodded and bowed towards another direction. Junior Feng Yuan, senior came in a hurry and did not thank me. Now, junior thanks senior for saving our lives. Cui Hongshin and the rest had strange expressions as they looked at Feng Yuan's bow. They could not understand Xiaohua at all. After Feng Yuan finished bowing, Tai Ching Sect's disciples also cleaned up the corpses of the dead disciples and took out the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator's storage bags. Dao friend Cui, you came to help us. This storage bag should be taken by you, right? Feng Yuan hesitated for a moment before waving his hand generously. Cui Hongshin smiled and waved his hand. Even though we came to help, Tai Ching Sect's Dao friend also contributed greatly and lost many of our fellow disciples. How can we take it? Let's split it evenly? Saying so, Cui Hongshin looked around and smiled. Why are there only 7 or 8 storage bags? 2 seem to be missing? Oh, those 2 storage bags were taken by Changbai Sect seniors. Feng Yuan smiled. If they don't take it, I will feel even more uneasy. That's good. Cui Hongshin also smiled. Splitting it like this will make us feel at ease. Next, Tai Ching Sect's disciples divided the items in the storage bags evenly and gave them to Zhen Minghui, who gave them to everyone else. After the items were distributed, Cui Hongshin cupped his fists. Dao friend we will have to part ways. I will take my leave. Feng Yuan also cupped his fists and looked at Xiaohua, saying, after this mission is completed, I will go to Imperial Thunder Sect Station to find you and junior brother Xiao.
All right.
Tai Ching Sect's disciples and Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples cupped their fists and smiled, flying up at the same time. However, after flying for a few meters, they were surprised. The 2 groups were flying in the same direction? Cui Hongshin looked at Feng Yuan. The 2 had bitter smiles on their faces. After thinking for a while, Cui Hongshin smiled. Dao friend are you going to Golden Spring Mountain?
Ha ha ha, yes.
Feng Yuan also laughed loudly. This is too much of a coincidence. Let's go together. The disciples of the 2 sects were also happy. They flew up in their respective groups. Feng Yuan chatted with Cui Hongshin for a while in front. When he saw Xiaohua flying leisurely at the back, he stopped and waited for Xiaohua to come closer. Junior brother Xiao. Long time no see, your cultivation is also out of my expectations. Feng Yuan smiled. I knew that junior brother Xiao would be able to reach foundation establishment smoothly. Your cultivation far surpasses mine. It's nothing. Xiaohua smiled. As long as I cultivate diligently, heaven will take care of me. Yes. Feng Yuan smiled apologetically. I am really lucky. Every time I meet junior brother Xiao, good things happen. Last time, senior brother I have already said it at Feather Immortal Assembly. It was all your own hard work. Xiaohua naturally knew what Feng Yuan wanted to say. He quickly stopped him. Yes. He Fong Yuan nodded repeatedly, but after thinking for a while, hesitation appeared on his face. He transmitted. Junior brother Xiao, actually, I have something to tell you.
Speak.
Xiao Hua saw his transmission and knew it was not a small matter. He nodded. This matter concerns junior brother and my sect. If I did not participate in this sword path battle, I might not be able to explain it to junior brother Xiao. But since I met junior brother Xiao and junior brother Xiao helped me again, I feel that I should explain it to junior brother Xiao.
Ah, what is it?
Is it about Feather Immortal Assembly? Xiao Hua's heart shook. He raised his eyebrows and asked. That's right. He Fong Yuan nodded. He looked at the Tai Ching sect disciples in front of him and transmitted. Junior brother Xiao should know that Feather Immortal Assembly's illusion formation can record images. The situation of my foundation establishment inside the illusion formation. The sect knows about it. Moreover, the sect master even summoned me and asked me in detail. Is that so? Xiao Hua frowned. He did not deny it. Moreover, I heard the sect master even found a few disciples with great strength and tried, but they did not succeed. He Fong Yuan could not speak too directly. He hinted vaguely.
Thank you.
Xiao Hua nodded. This matter is strange. It has nothing to do with me. But it seems that some disciples also established foundation when they fought junior brother Xiao, right? He Fong Yuan thought for a while and said, Yes. Xiao Hua had a bitter smile on his face. He shrugged. Actually, I was already at the peak of Qi refinement stage 12. Isn't it normal for there to be a few foundation establishment disciples? At that time, my cultivation level was low. I could only bully others with great strength. Your sect master had to be so far-fetched. I had no choice. However, it has been so long, I did not encounter anything. I am sure your sect masters thought it through, right? Of course, this Xiao still has to thank senior martial brother He. Chapter 2309. Xiao Hua said it was fine, but his heart was thumping as he became vigilant. Although this wasn't a special secret of his, if it were to fall into the eyes of someone with ulterior motives, especially the masters of sects like the Tai Ching sect, it would definitely be more dangerous than secrets like the Buddhist sect's cultivation level and the dragonization art. No need to thank me. He Fong Yuan cupped his fists. I hope that by going to Jin Quan Mountain with junior brother Xiao, I will be able to return safely. I think so. Xiao Hua thought inwardly and answered casually. These weapon cultivators and sword cultivators are only SOSO. Senior brother He's luck is so good. Of course you will be fine. Sigh. Don't talk about weapon cultivators and beast cultivators. Hearing this, He Fong Yuan smiled bitterly. Before coming to patrol Heaven City, I searched the sect's records to study the weakness of weapon cultivators, sword cultivators, and beast cultivators. However, I did not find the weakness. Instead, I found that sword cultivators are better, but weapon cultivators and beast cultivators are different from the records in the sect.
Oh,
what's the difference? Xiao Hua was surprised. He did not have time to look at Imperial Thunder Sect's records, so he did not know what He Fong Yuan was talking about. Junior brother Xiao, you didn't notice? He Fong Yuan looked at Xiao Hua. That beast cultivator is strange. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and shrugged. I smashed it to death. I really did not notice. Junior brother Xiao, you really have nothing to worry about. He Fong Yuan was speechless. Didn't you see that beast cultivators actually refine spirit beasts into their bodies? Is that so? What's so strange about it? Isn't that how beast cultivators do it? Xiao Hua asked. The ignorant are fearless. He Fong Yuan sighed and thought for a while before asking, Do you know Shi Country's spirit husbandry sect? I do. Xiao Hua nodded. They rear spirit beasts and use them for battle. Of course I know. That's good. He Fong Yuan nodded. Actually, in Tai Ching sect's records, beast cultivators are similar to spirit husbandry sect, but beast cultivators are stronger and their spirit beasts are of higher grade. Moreover, beast cultivators are the same as sword cultivators. They can place their primordial spirits in spiritual beasts and control them more flexibly.
Ah?
Only now did Xiao Hua understand He Fong Yuan's words and shouted in shock. Isn't that so? The beast cultivators I saw today had the bodies of humans, but their heads were the heads of spirit beasts. Exactly. He Fong Yuan nodded solemnly. Beast cultivators can actually refine spirit beasts into their bodies. This is a symbiosis with spirit beasts. Not only do they have the strength of cultivators, they also have the innate abilities of spirit beasts. This is something that our Dao sect cultivators cannot compare to. That tool cultivator, is he alright? Xiao Hua probed. Not necessarily. He Fong Yuan shook his head again. Weapon cultivators are the same as sword cultivators. They have the cultivation path of man, and sword is one. But that's only possible if you reach the transformation stage, which is the same as my Dao sect's nascent soul stage cultivators. Those weapon cultivators just now were obviously only at the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, but they were actually able to connect their bodies with magic treasures. They were only one step away from transforming into a weapon. This is simply inconceivable. And what I don't understand the most is that they seem to have a problem with their brains. What do you mean? Xiao Hua asked again. Let's not talk about that Changbai sect senior. He escaped after killing 2 weapon cultivators. It is normal that these weapon cultivators and beast cultivators did not escape. He Fong Yuan explained again, but when Dao Friend Xiao and the other Imperial Thunder sect disciples came, they were clearly not our match and should have escaped. But they simply did not run. They stubbornly defended until we killed them one by one. Don't you think this is strange? That is true. Xiao Hua really did not think so much. Only when He Fong Yuan mentioned it did he realize that these were indeed some inexplicable details. Maybe they have a mission? They don't dare to leave? Xiao Hua said softly. What mission can there be in such a remote place? He Fong Yuan shook his head. Even if there is a mission, they should escape first. Maybe they want to intercept us? Xiao Hua said casually. That is impossible? He Fong Yuan smiled. When we teleported out of Patrol Heaven City, we were very secretive and quickly flew towards Quanjin Mountain. Even if our 2 teams have the same mission, we do not know each other. How could they know? Senior brother, his words make sense. Xiao Hua nodded and looked ahead. We should tell Dao Friend Chui about this. You are the leaders of the 2 teams after all. Dao Friend Chui? He Fong Yuan was surprised. You don't call him senior brother? This is my Myriad Thunder Valley's family matter. Dao Friend, he should not interfere. Xiao Hua waved his hand. All right. He Fong Yuan smiled. No matter what, I will always side with junior brother Xiao. Don't worry about this. Just based on what Dao Friend he said earlier, I will remember this favor. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded, sending He Fong Yuan off with his gaze. This is troublesome. Although Xiao Hua did not seem to care, he was muttering in his heart. How could he not care about the concern of Tai Ching sect's master? That was a sect that was even more powerful than the Imperial Thunder sect. It was estimated that because the Tai Ching sect was in Meng country and the Imperial Thunder sect was in Shi country, and Xiao Hua had been appearing and disappearing unpredictably all these years, the disciples of the Tai Ching sect didn't receive any news about Xiao Hua, so they didn't directly look for him. It was hard to say who would win in this sword path battle. Sai, keep a low profile. Xiao Hua was gloomy. I just want to cultivate peacefully. I already gave the credit to some Changbai sect senior. How can I retreat? However, He Fong Yuan's words are really strange. If the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator did not have some mission, then they might have been affected by the artifact or spirit beast, losing the vigilance and thinking that cultivators should have. Not to mention Xiao Hua's speculation about whether the artifact cultivator and beast cultivator had some mission. Far away in the west of Shi country, at the border with Huan country, an emerald green sword light was flying through the sky in the biting cold wind. On that sword light was a person wearing a long green robe. This swordsman's hair was white, his cheekbones were bulging, and there were no wrinkles on his pale yellow face. As the sword light flickered, the swordsman's body would sway slightly. That sword intent pierced into the air, piercing through the cold wind. Not to mention the snowflakes that were faintly floating in the air, they could not even get close to him. As the swordsman's body swayed, The sword light would transform from time to time, and a green sword would appear on that sword light. This swordsman was actually an illusory sword cultivator. Just as the illusory swordsman flew past a towering cliff, the sword intent cut through a baby fist-sized icicle on the cliff. That icicle fell down the cliff, and no sound could be heard for a long time. From the front of the swordsman, a fiery red brilliance quickly chased after him. Whose flying sword book is it? That swordsman frowned slightly, his body stopping in the air. That green sword phantom immediately withdrew into his body, and with a wave of his hand, a finger-long flying sword landed in his hand. When the swordsman finished reading the contents of the flying sword, his expression changed greatly, and he shouted with a stern voice, "Idiot! You ruined my plan. 100 deaths are not worth regretting." As he spoke, sword light appeared in his hand, and that flying sword was actually torn apart by the sword light in the swordsman's hand. Like a piece of white paper, it turned into fragments and fell from the sky. This makes this sword. The swordsman gritted his teeth and hesitated, as if he wanted to turn back. However, the swordsman stood in the air for a long time, and in the end, he flew up again and flew forward. But this time, there was no sword light like before, only a green figure. The swordsman flew for more than half a day and arrived in front of a towering ice mountain. The ice mountain was extremely high, piercing straight into the gloomy sky, as if it was going to pierce the sky. This ice mountain was extremely wide, stretching for more than 10 miles. The swordsman flew to the ice mountain and did not stop. Instead, he flew around the ice mountain, and in the time it took to eat a meal, a crack that was several feet wide appeared in the ice. The swordsman hesitated for a moment, and then rushed into the crack. The crack was between the ice mountain, and a huge whirlwind was generated from the crack, as if it could blow the swordsman away in an instant. However, the sword light around the swordsman's body flashed, and a green treasure sword appeared. Wung wung, a burst of sound was heard, and the sword light slashed down, splitting the whirlwind. In an instant, there was a moment of silence. And in this moment of silence, the sword light flashed, and the swordsman rushed into the crack. Out of the crack, the swordsman's eyes lit up, and a huge lake appeared in front of him. The surface of the lake was extremely large and emerald green. Icy mountains surrounded the surface of the huge lake, blocking the surrounding cold wind. Moreover, several pale white rays of sunlight shot out from the dark clouds in the sky, like huge light swords, piercing into the lake in the valley. Under the sunlight, the lake not only became more green, but there was not even the slightest sound of wind. There were no ripples on the surface of the lake, and it was really like a huge gem. The swordsman was not shocked by the strange scene in front of him, as if he was already used to it. He flew past a corner of Lake Chui and landed on one of the protrusions on the stone wall, and stood there quietly. On the left side of the stone wall he was standing on, not only were there rare spirit grasses growing everywhere, even under the stone wall, near Lake Chui, there were spirit grasses that were the size of a fist and looked like lotus flowers that were full of vitality. The lotus-like spirit fruits emitted a delicate fragrance, and even if the swordsman stood high up, he could still faintly smell it. However, the swordsman was distracted and did not pay attention to it. Looking at the surroundings of Lake Chui, on the stone wall, there were dozens of protrusions. And at this time, on these protrusions, there were many different swordsmen. Among these swordsmen, most of them were similar to the swordsman who just came. They stood there quietly, with their eyes slightly closed, and their entire bodies seemed to be in a trance. Each one of them was like an unsheathed sword, and the shape of the sword was faintly discernible. These swordsmen were actually at the illusory sword realm. Chapter 23:10. As for the remaining cultivators, they were naturally beast cultivators and weapon cultivators. Not to mention the crouching tiger and coiling dragon of the beast cultivators, the shadows of the strange spirit beasts would appear from time to time. Even the artifact cultivators would occasionally release the light of the artifact cultivators. All of this indicated that these deviant cultivators also had the cultivation of the sword cultivator's illusory sword. An hour passed by quickly, and another dozen or so swordsmen arrived on their swords and stopped on the stone wall. Clink! A loud sound like a sharp sword rang out. A green sword ray flew out from the wall opposite of the green-clothed swordsman and landed on Lake Chui like a meteor. The sword energy on the sword ray was like frost, and layers of ice began to form on the surface of Lake Chui. Wung, on the stone walls surrounding Lake Chui, all the swordsmen released their sword intent, creating a fierce hurricane. Every swordsman's body let out a sword cry. Welcome, fellow swordsmen. The emerald green sword light receded, revealing a woman in emerald green sword attire. The woman's face was extremely cold, and there was a murderous aura between her eyebrows. Although she called out to everyone, there was not much warmth in her eyes. Zang, zung, zung. Dozens of sword lights that were not inferior to the female swordsman's flew out from the stone walls and landed on the surface of Lake Chui. Although the swordsmen appeared to be standing in a disorderly manner, they were clearly positioned from top to bottom and left to right. It was obvious that this was a very profound sword formation. I am Black Phoenix, Sword Sex Lu Ruocheng. Greetings, fellow swordsmen. The female swordsman cupped her fists and bowed towards the crowd. Greetings, LV Jianyu. The swordsmen also cupped their fists in return. Lu Ruocheng straightened up and said coldly, "The Sword Dao War has been going on for more than a year. Our sword cultivators have suffered great losses. On the other hand, the Dao sect cultivators did not suffer many losses either. The Dao sect has the advantage in numbers. If we sword cultivators are unable to find a way to win and obtain victory in a short period of time, we will definitely be forced to retreat in the end." LV Jianyu, that's easy for you to say. Do you have a way to win? A tall, middle-aged sword cultivator dressed in red swordsman attire coldly replied, "We sword cultivators have fought countless battles with the Dao sect. We've always had the upper hand in the beginning. Later on, we were gradually pushed back. In the end, we were forced to retreat to the sword realm. There were even many great battles where we were forced to retreat at the beginning. Could it be that my sword cultivator seniors aren't as smart as you?" Hehe, so it's Qin Jian of the Void Heaven Sword School. A rare smile appeared on Lu Ruocheng's face. Swordsman Qin, you're now famous in the Dao sect. They've searched the entire border between the state of Xi and the Sword region to find you. I heard that your bounty has risen to an extremely high level. This Qin is untalented. Qin Jian laughed coldly. Qin, do not know how to win. I only want to kill as many cultivators as possible. Once I kill them one by one, wouldn't the cultivators retreat? If it's as sword friend Qin said, then it's simple. Another old man dressed in khaki swordsman attire shook his head. There are as many cultivators as there are hairs on a cow. Even if they stand there and let us kill them, I'm afraid we won't be able to kill them all. Swordsman Yuan Qing, does everyone in the skyscraper sword school have such thoughts? Are you scared witless by a bunch of pigs? Qin Jian glanced at the old man and sneered. Haha, I won't be so stupid as to kill those useless pigs. Yuan Qing of the Matian sword sect smiled and did not refute. Sigh. Yes, if it were so simple, then there wouldn't be thousands of remains of sword cultivators in the sword tomb. There wouldn't be thousands of broken swords wailing. Lu Ruocheng also sighed. At this moment, a middle-aged swordsman with a red face said, "Swordsman Lu, this is only the first stage of the battle. We only need to follow the instructions of our masters and kill as many cultivators as possible so that we won't be forced back to the sword realm." Why are you so pessimistic? Chu Jiancheng from the Xianjian sect. Lu Ruocheng glanced at the middle-aged swordsman and asked, "How is Duan Yuming's swordsman Duan? The 4 people from your Xianjian sect have all died at the hands of cultivators. Our battle this time also originated from your Xianjian sect. You should be on my side." Thank you for your concern, Swordsman Lu. Senior Duan's primordial spirit has returned and has entered the Xianjian sect's sword pool to recuperate. If he can find a suitable body, he can take over it. Otherwise, He can't use the secret technique of weapon cultivators to feed the sword with his body and become a sword spirit. Chu Jiancheng said in a sorrowful voice.
How sad.
Lu Ruochang sighed softly. This sword is naturally on LV Jianyo's side. Chu Jiancheng cupped his hands and said, however, Chu thinks that we don't need to think too much. We only need to exhaust the strength of the Xianjian sect in the early stages of the battle and kill all the Qi refinement and foundation establishment disciples. This is to complete the task given by our masters. It's all nonsense. A drawn-out voice sounded. It was a weapon cultivator whose body was flashing with a faint brilliance. The weapon cultivator was extremely tall, like a bamboo pole. In the brilliance, there were several sections of a pagoda faintly visible. Didn't I hear that LV Jiancheng was going to set up a formation in the sword catacomb? What's the situation? The weapon cultivator said coldly, I thought that everything was in order. I only need to lure all the cultivators to the sword catacomb. That's why I came over. If I'm going to listen to your nonsense, I'm going to turn back. Hee. So it's Senior Fan Kui Yuan from the 7 Spiritual Mountains. Lu Ruochang smiled and said, Senior Fan, don't be anxious. How can the illusory sword formation be easy to set up? Moreover, a simple sword formation may not be able to trap so many cultivators. I've left some assassins in the illusory sword formation. This isn't something that can be done easily. Oh, then I've wrongly accused you? If there's anything you need the 7 spiritual mountains to do, just say it. If those formation weapons are to be used, I'll personally go into battle. With Senior Fan's words, I'm 100 times more confident. Lu Ruochang cupped his hands and said, I've invited all of you here to ask about your preparations. So you've already made preparations. Not bad, not bad. Fan Kuiyuan nodded with a smile. Sword friends from the Clear Sword Sect, Lunar Sun Sword Sect, Flame Bamboo Sword Sect, Failing Sword Manor, and Soaring Wind Sword Sect. What's your situation? Can you tell us about it? Lu Ruochang's gaze swept across everyone, and the green-robed swordsman shrunk his neck slightly. Lu Ruochang was very sharp, and a trace of sternness flashed in his eyes. He then looked at the others. Zhong Haoshuan from the Clear Sword Sect greets all of you. An extremely robust swordsman cupped his hands and said, My Clear Sword Sect has already found the sword spirit used in the illusory sword formation. If I'm not wrong, we should be able to find it within 3 months. Good. Lu Ruochang clapped his hands and praised. Yin Yang sword spirit that the Clear Sword Sect is looking for is the most demanding. I didn't expect Sword Friend Zhong to be so capable to have found it in such a short period of time. It's really praiseworthy. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.